Birganj Main Road expansion begins as encroachment removal starts after 13-year delay. Bulldozers mobilized along Tribhuvan Highway corridor. Communications Minister Timil Sinha stresses media sector should be dignified and responsible, urges awareness on information authenticity. Nepal's economic growth forecast slips below 3%. World Bank and ADB warn external shocks could derail recovery. Nepal government intensifies monsoon disaster preparedness with tech-driven action plan. Experts urge stronger community response. Iran shuts Strait of Hormuz, escalating tensions over U.S. port blockade. IRGC links closure to maritime dispute. And Nepal faces Italy in crucial ICC Women's T20 Challenge Trophy clash. Italy seeks momentum as Nepal hunts first win in Kigali tournament. Hello there, I'm Bijata Bhandari and this is Primetime News, coming to you live from Kathmandu at 1900 hours Nepal time. Elsewhere, it is 13:15 in London, 22:15 in Tokyo and just after midnight in Sydney. Now the news in detail. The government has begun a major road expansion drive in Birganj, with bulldozers deployed this morning to remove encroachments along the main highway stretch from Gandak Chowk to Miteri Bridge. According to the Road Division Office in Hitauda, the Tribhuvan Highway section is being widened to 25 meters on both sides, in line with the national highway standards. The road is being expanded with demolition work simultaneously launched at 5 key locations, including Powerhouse Chowk, Khantaghar, Rajat Jayanti Chowk, and the customs area near Miteri Bridge. Officials say the expansion affects around 29 government buildings and approximately 1,200 privately owned houses in the area. Birganj Metropolitan City Mayor Rajesh Man Singh has stated that the municipality has extended full support to the project as requested by the road authorities. The long-delayed project stalled for nearly 13 years despite a Supreme Court ruling in favor of the government, has now formally moved into the implementation phase with the removal of structures underway. Minister for Communications and Information Technology, Dr. Bikram Timil Sinha, has called on media organizations and social media users in Nepal to avoid spreading misleading or irresponsible content, saying such practices undermine the spirit of freedom of expression. Speaking at a press conference in Battar of Bedur Municipality, Nuwakot, the minister stressed that the media, as a key pillar of democracy, must exercise self-regulation and strictly follow existing laws and professional codes of conduct. He noted that the challenge of misinformation cannot be solved through legal measures alone and emphasized that responsible journalism and internal accountability are essential to maintaining the public trust. Dr. Timil Sinha also reaffirmed the government's commitment to press freedom while introducing new advertising policy provisions aimed at improving transparency, promoting austerity, and strengthening state-owned media outlets. He further said that a strong and responsible media sector is vital for good governance and pledged government efforts to prevent misuse of taxpayer-funded resources while ensuring transparency in official communication. Leaders aligned with Nepali Congress outgoing President Sher Bahadur Deuba have called for stronger internal unity within Nepal's largest democratic party, following a meeting held in Kathmandu. During the discussion, leaders from the Deuba faction emphasized that with the court having already settled internal disputes, the party should now shift its focus toward organizational cohesion and collective strength. Party leaders said the current political environment demands reconciliation and cooperation among all factions to reinforce stability within the Nepali Congress. Congress leader Kundan Raj Kafle stated that the party leadership at Sanepa should take the initiative to bring all sides together and lead efforts towards unification. The meeting concluded with a shared view that internal consolidation is essential for the party's effectiveness in Nepal's evolving political landscape. The Nepal Oil Corporation has clarified that fuel prices in Nepal are determined by international market rates amid growing public concern over rising petroleum cost. The state-owned supplier explained that Nepal imports processed petroleum products from the Indian Oil Corporation rather than crude oil, as the country does not have its own refinery, making direct comparison with crude oil prices inappropriate. NOC spokesperson Manoj Thakur said fuel prices are adjusted automatically every 15 days based on import cost, while additional factors such as taxes, transportation, insurance, storage, and service charges also contribute to final retail prices. According to NOC data, international tensions in the Gulf region have significantly widened the price gap between crude and refined fuels, increasing pressure on importing countries like Nepal, where diesel and petrol prices were recently raised by up to Rs 30 per litre. The corporation also warned that it continues to incur heavy losses, nearly Rs 100 per litre on diesel, and could face an estimated financial deficit of around 5.75 billion rupees over the next 15 days if the global prices remain high. With growth projections slipping below 3% as external shocks and weak domestic demand weigh heavily, Nepal's economy has an uphill climb to overcome. The World Bank and Asian Development Bank warned that Middle East tensions, slowing investment, and subdued consumption could derail recovery. The downturn presents a critical early test for the new government's economic agenda. Sabika Shrestha brings more.
Nepal's economic momentum faces a political cooling period in 2026. Despite a new political chapter, growth projections are currently being recalibrated, with estimates suggesting a dip below the 3% mark as external pressures mount. Reports from the World Bank and the Asian Development Bank indicate a projected GDP slowdown to 2.3% to 2.7% this fiscal year. This stands in contrast to the 4.6% growth seen in fiscal year 2025, posing a significant question. Can the government's policy interventions counteract this downward trend? At the core of the slowdown are mounting external risks, particularly tensions in the Middle East, which threaten remittance inflows, a key driver of Nepal's economy. Dr. Prakash Kumar Shrestha, Vice Chair of the National Planning Commission, warned the path ahead will be difficult.
Already the petroleum price has skyrocketed, and because of that transportation price increase, and our inflation also already started increasing. And the recent global World Bank report also highlighted that there are 5 channels through which the impact of this Middle East will come to the Nepal. One is the remittances, another one is the chemical fertilizers, another one is the petroleum product, international trade. These are the things, these are the channel through which our Nepalese economy already feeling the impact of this war. And if it continues further, and obviously our aspiration for the growth will be impacted.
However, the challenge is not solely external. Structural hurdles persist.
A government has to work on the maintaining the good governance, which the people are complaining, especially the youth are complaining about that. And the government also has to fix the internally, like the public finance management. There are so many things to do, and actually the economic reforms, so that there will be the environment for investment, so that the private sector can invest. That will increase the employment. That's the young actually looking for.
The recent political transition has led to a wait-and-see approach among private investors. On the streets of the capital, the disconnect between macroeconomic data and consumer confidence is palpable.
कस्टमर आउँदैन, भाडाहरू त्यस्तै छ, गाडी भाडा त्यस्तै छ, सबै कुराहरू त्यस्तै छ। समस्या चाहिँ धेरै नै भयो हामीलाई। जब गर्ने मान्छे हो, अब गाडी भाडा त्यस्तै बढेको छ। पहिला 20 रुपैयाँमा आउँथ्यो भने अहिले 25 तिर्नु पर्छ।
This sentiment reflects a core concern flagged by the International Monetary Fund that weak domestic demand could stifle the broader recovery. Key sectors are under pressure. Tourism faces rising costs linked to global energy volatility, while trade imbalances continue to widen despite modest export growth. The data presents a complex paradox. Nepal Rashtra Bank reports a stable environment with inflation at 3.25% and robust foreign exchange reserves of $22.76 billion American dollar. Yet, the widening trade deficit and energy volatility affecting tourism keep the economy in a vulnerable state.
Nepal's economy is kind of mixed stage, mixed situations. There are some good signs, especially the external sector. We have enough foreign currency reserves, and we have enough liquidity in the banking system. But on the other hand, our private sector investment has not picking up.
As the government moves to convert these stable reserves into active economic momentum, the focus remains on policy clarity. Will faster capital spending be enough to regain the growth trajectory, or will the uphill battle against global headwinds prove too steep? Sabika Shrestha with camera person Rasila Shrestha reporting for NTV World.
Time to go for a short break, but we shall be back soon with more updates, so do stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching NTV World Primetime News. Now to other updates. Nepal Stock Exchange Limited has revised the existing circuit breaker mechanism in share trading. The changes introduced through the Fourth Amendment to the Securities Trading Operational Regulations 2019 will come into effect from tomorrow, setting new upper and lower limits for the market movements. April Aghasing Lama brings more.
Nepal has introduced new regulations in its stock market with changes set to take effect from Monday, April 20th. Nepal's stock market is a small but rapidly growing frontier market in South Asia. Under the revised rules issued by the Nepal Securities Board, trading on the Nepal Stock Exchange NEPSE index will now only be halted if the market rises or falls by 8%. Previously, this threshold was set at 6%. The updated system also reduces the number of circuit breakers from 3 stages to 2. If the NEPSE index moves up or down by 5% within the first 2 hours of trading, transactions will be suspended for 15 minutes. If the market continues to fluctuate and reaches an 8% change, trading will be halted for the entire day. Earlier, the market would pause for 20 minutes if it moved by 4% within the first hour, and for 40 minutes if it shifted by 5% within 2 hours. A 6% change at any time would result in a full-day closure. Also, individual stock prices will now be allowed to fluctuate by up to 15% in a single trading day, compared to the previous limit of 10%. While this creates opportunities for higher returns, it also increases the risk of significant losses. The new provisions also allow investors to place buy or sell orders even after the market closes at 3 p.m. local time. These orders will be prioritized by brokers when trading resumes the next day. Furthermore, during the pre-open session between 10:30 a.m. and 10:55 a.m., investors can now trade shares within a 5% price range, up from the earlier 2% limit. The regulatory body states that these changes have been introduced in line with international practices and to accommodate the growing number of investors in Nepal's capital market.
The government of Nepal has announced intensified preparations to reduce disaster risk ahead of the upcoming monsoon season as part of a nationwide readiness plan. The Ministry of Home Affairs and the Disaster Management Authority are developing a monsoon preparedness and response national action plan, focusing on stronger coordination from federal to local levels. Officials say training has already been conducted across all 77 districts and 7 provinces, including the use of a national disaster portal and specialized rescue operations such as swift water rescue, urban search and rescue, and emergency medical response. Authorities also plan to strengthen early warning systems by installing sirens in more than 55 locations and ensuring adequate budgets for rescue equipment and emergency food supplies, while experts emphasize the need to integrate modern technologies like artificial intelligence and improve access to simplified weather alerts in local languages. Despite these efforts, disaster management experts caution that effective response will depend not only on preparedness plans but also on how well the technology and community response systems are implemented on the ground. Nepal's oldest and largest university, Tribhuvan University, is at the center of a massive financial and ethical scandal. Nearly 400 permanent professors have allegedly siphoned off around 2 billion rupees in taxpayer money after going abroad for PhDs and never returning. An investigation revealed these faculty members continued drawing full salaries while living in countries like the US, Australia, and across Europe. The list also includes even sitting members of parliament, some of whom have now begun quietly refunding the money. Meanwhile, students paid the price with declining academic standards and temporary staff filling critical roles. The government promises a crackdown, but public pressure is mounting for strict legal action. With the onset of the spring climbing season in Nepal, expeditions have officially begun on Mount Dhaulagiri, the world's 7th highest peak at 8,167 meters, located in western Nepal's Dhaulagiri Rural Municipality 4. On Saturday, 9 climbers, 5 Nepalis and 4 foreign nationals successfully completed the first summit of the season under an expedition organized by Imagine Nepal Company. The summit team included climbers from China, Switzerland and Nepal, among them experienced Sherpa guides, and they safely returned to Base Camp 3 after reaching the peak around 11 a.m. According to Nepal's Department of Tourism, 28 climbers in total, including 12 women, have obtained permits for this spring season, contributing over 12.56 million Nepali rupees in royalty revenue to the government. Dhaulagiri was first successfully climbed on May 13, 1960 by Austrian mountaineer Kurt Diemberger, marking it as one of the historic peaks in global mountaineering. 13 young performers dressed in red traditional costumes have revived the centuries-old Hanuman dance at the Kalika Bhagwati temple in Baglung district of western Nepal. The performance, rooted in Newar cultural tradition and inspired by the Ramayana, symbolizes the devotion, discipline and spiritual purity associated with Lord Hanuman. After a 9-year gap, the historic dance, believed to be around 300 years old, was once again staged with ritual worship inside the temple premises, drawing strong interest and emotional response from local residents. The performers, who embody the principles of Brahmacharya, presented the traditional art form accompanied by classical instruments, preserving its religious and cultural significance. Local authorities, including Mayor Basanta Kumar Shrestha, have pledged support for its continuation, while efforts are also underway to propose the heritage dance for inclusion in the UNESCO World Heritage List. Now on to international updates, but before that, it's time for a short break. Iran says it will not open the Strait of Hormuz unless the U.S. stops blockading its ports. The closure came as reports emerged of vessels in or near the strait, including a tanker, were targeted by Tehran on Saturday. The Islamic Revolution Guard Corps, or IRGC, blamed a continuing U.S. blockade for its decision, which comes a day after Iran's foreign minister announced the key global shipping channel had been temporarily reopened. It said a number of vessels had passed through the strait under its management since Friday night, but that it would shut again until the U.S. stopped its blockade of Iranian ports. Meanwhile, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, Iran's parliamentary speaker, says that while progress has been made in negotiations to end the war with the U.S., the two sides are far from final discussion. In the meantime, U.S. President Donald Trump said Iran is attempting to block the Strait of Hormuz as part of its leverage strategy, but warned that Washington would not accept what he called blackmail. Trump said the United States is in talks with Iran over the issue, adding that Tehran can't blackmail us after reports that Iran intended to resume restrictions on the strategic shipping route.
They have no Navy, they have no Air Force, they have no leaders, they have no nothing. Actually, their leaders are, it is regime change. You call that enforced regime change, but we're talking to them. They wanted to close up the strait again, you know, as they've been doing for years, and they can't blackmail us. In fact, a lot of the ships are coming up to Texas. I don't know if you know, in Louisiana, the ships are coming up. They got used to it. Maybe they'll keep doing it. It's worked out pretty good. But it's going actually along very well, and we'll see. But we'll have some information by the end of the day. We're talking to them, and, you know, we're taking a tough stand. They've killed a lot of people.
As the new round of U.S.-Iran talks hangs in the balance, Pakistan has tightened traffic controls and sharply limited media access, turning Islamabad into a heavily secured safe island for potential negotiations. Since Saturday, Pakistan has tightened control over long-distance passenger transport, banned heavy trucks from entering the main urban areas of the capital city of Islamabad and other major cities, as well as further raised its security alert level. The measures are designed to systematically reduce traffic pressure around the core area, creating a relatively enclosed and controllable environment for what may become a closed-door negotiation. Media access has been sharply tightened since the first round earlier in the month, with some journalists calling the current accreditation process hellishly difficult. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance led U.S. team and Iranian delegation, led by Parliamentary Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, had intensive talks for over 20 hours and reached no agreement. Hezbollah deputy leader Naim Qassem has said that any truce with Israel cannot be one-sided and that the group will respond to continued Israeli attacks on Lebanon. Qassem, in a written message broadcast on the group's Al-Manar TV, warned that Hezbollah fighters remain ready for retaliation, framing the situation as part of ongoing cross-border hostilities. He said that attacks on Lebanese territory would not go unanswered, signaling continued escalation risk despite international calls for de-escalation. The remarks come amid persistent tensions along the Lebanon-Israel frontier, where sporadic exchanges of fire have raised fears of broader conflict. North Korea has launched multiple ballistic missiles towards the sea off its eastern coast, according to South Korea and Japan. The incident on Sunday marked North Korea's 7th ballistic missile launch this year and its 4th in April. The missiles were fired near the city of Sinpo on North Korea's east coast at about 6:10 a.m. on Sunday local time, according to South Korea's military. It added that South Korea had bolstered its surveillance posture and was closely exchanging information with the United States and Japan. Japan's government posted on social media that the ballistic missiles were believed to have fallen near the east coast of the Korean peninsula. South Korea's presidential office said it has held an emergency security meeting, according to media reports. The launches come as China and the US prepare for a summit in mid-May, in which Chinese President Xi Jinping and his US counterpart Donald Trump are expected to discuss North Korea. Now, time for another break here. We shall be back soon. Bulgarians began voting on Sunday in their 8th national election in 5 years, amid continued political instability and public frustration over corruption and governance. The vote is widely expected to favor a political grouping linked to former President Rumen Radev, which has campaigned on anti-corruption platform. The election comes after years of fragmented parliaments and short-lived governments, with voters seeking stability and stronger institutional reform in the European Union member state. Turnout will be closely watched as a measure of public confidence in the country's repeatedly contested political system. Catholic priest and DJ Padre Guilherme led a large public tribute in Argentina, marking 1 year since the death of Pope Francis, drawing crowds to an event that fused electronic music with a call for peace. The gathering combined religious reflection with live DJ performances, highlighting the late Pope's legacy while appealing to younger audiences through music and spirituality. Padre Guilherme said that peace is a grace but remains very fragile, and people need to recognize its vulnerability. Organizers said the event aimed to promote unity and reflection amid global tensions, as attendees honored the Argentine-born pontiff through a non-traditional format that blended faith and contemporary culture. Time now for Sports Update. Nepal is currently facing Italy in its second match of the ICC Women's T20 Challenge Trophy, a newly introduced tournament organized by the International Cricket Council. The match is being held at the Gahanga International Stadium in Kigali, Rwanda, as part of a 5-team competition featuring Nepal, Italy, the United States, Rwanda, and Vanuatu. Nepal is aiming for its first victory after losing its opening match to the United States by 44 runs. Italy enters the contest with confidence after securing 2 points from a win over host Rwanda in their opening game. The tournament is being played in a double round-robin format, where the team finishing at the top of the points table will be crowned champion. Nepal will host the United Arab Emirates in a 2-match international T20 series at home tomorrow as part of its preparations for the ICC Cricket World Cup League 2. The game will be played under floodlights at the Tribhuvan University Cricket Ground in Kirtipur, marking Nepal's first ever international cricket matches held at night. The Cricket Association of Nepal has already announced the national squad for the series, led by Captain Dipendra Singh Aire. This follows Nepal's experience of playing domestic franchise cricket under lights during the Nepal Premier League, which helped build familiarity with day-night conditions. After this series, Nepal will continue its World Cup League 2 commitments at home against Oman, UAE, the United States and Scotland, with earlier fixtures having been disrupted due to regional tensions in the Gulf. Before wrapping up, here's a look into the top stories once again. Birganj Main Road expansion begins as encroachment removal starts after 13-year delay. Bulldozers mobilized along Tribhuvan Highway corridor. Communications Minister Timil Sinha stresses media sector should be dignified and responsible, urges awareness on information authenticity. Nepal's economic growth forecast slips below 3%. World Bank and ADB warn external shocks could derail recovery. Nepal government intensifies monsoon disaster preparedness with tech-driven action plan. Experts urge stronger community response. Iran shuts Strait of Hormuz, escalating tensions over US port blockade. IRGC links closure to maritime dispute. And Nepal faces Italy in crucial ICC Women's T20 Challenge Trophy clash. Italy seeks momentum as Nepal hunts first win in Kigali tournament. That's it for this edition of Primetime News. Our next bulletin will be at 2200 hours Nepal time. Meanwhile, do join us through our social media and also get the latest updates from our official website at nepaltelevision.com. Thank you for staying with us. Have a wonderful evening ahead.
Welcome to the studios of NTV World in Kathmandu. Public Service Broadcasting, PSB Nepal's new initiative to make Nepal more visible and audible to the global audience. Welcome on board.
This is NTV World, facts that speak, insights that matter.
Telling the stories of a changing planet. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Exploring the heartbeat of Nepali creativity. This is NTV World.
The power of story shaped by technology. NTV World.
Unearthing Nepal's hidden heritage. Discovering the timeless Nepal.
Telling stories that endure across centuries, where culture breathes, stories bloom.
When the world moves, we make a sense of it. NTV World.
Taste of Nepal. Every recipe, every flavor tells the story.
Journalism in the digital age. Fast, focused, verified.
Stories hold power. Stories reflecting life. Stories of the hinterlands. Reporting for NTV World.
This is NTV World. Welcome to News Hour.
This is NTV World. Welcome to Primetime News.
One story at a time.
Crossing borders, connecting voices, where Nepal meets the world in dialogue. This is NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Voices that connect Nepal to the world, bringing perspective, region and relevance to every story. NTV World, Nepal's perspective to the world.
Stand by. Mic is on.
3, 2, 1, cue.
We are NTV World.
Look at the history of Nepal. Never in history we have exported any weapons. We have never exported conflict. In the form of Buddha, we exported peace to the whole world. Right? In the form of meditation, we exported the deep soul connection. The Himalayan tradition says, don't go to the world to get something. Go to the world to give something. This makes the whole foundation, very different. This is a complete change in perspective. So when you say Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, you are not saying that this is my family and extort your family, and just bring in whatever you want to know. It says, if this is my family, it is my duty to serve my family. And no doubt, look at the history of Nepal. For a long time, never in history we have exported any weapons. We have never exported terrorism. Okay? We have never exported conflict. In the form of Buddha, we exported peace to the whole world. Right? In the form of meditation, we exported the deep soul connection. In the form of yoga, we exported the whole system of being healthy, not just physically but also mentally. In the form of naturopathy, we have exported wellness, not illness. What Nepal has brought to the human consciousness is profound. And I think it's time that we started looking into it. We started researching into it. Look at the world today, the whole world today, the whole wars, okay? The whole wars and everything that the world is doing today is trying to grab something from someone else. But Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam says, go out to the world at large, but with compassion in your heart.
Welcome to a new episode of The Hinterlands on NTV World. This weekly show brings together stories from the hinterlands of Nepal, takes you beyond the cities and highways into the heart of Nepal's rural landscape. I am Rosina Rai and we will be leading you into this journey every week. Nepal has entered the New Year 2083 Bikram Sambat, and the festive fervor is sweeping across the country. Communities nationwide celebrate vibrant cultural festivals with great fanfare and unity. In the historic city of Bhaktapur, the streets turned into a sea of red as devotees celebrated Sindur Jatra, smearing vermilion powder in devotion. At the same time, the tongue-piercing festival highlighted the region's deep-rooted cultural and spiritual traditions. In Madhyapur Thimi Bhaktapur, the atmosphere turned deeply ceremonial during the annual tongue-piercing ritual, observed as the part of the Biscuit Jatra celebrations. Local resident Susan Bag Shrestha continued the age-old tradition by piercing his tongue for the fourth time. Before the ritual began, priests performed sacred worship of various local deities, setting a solemn and a spiritual tone for the event. In the courtyard of Panch Ganesh temple, Shrestha's tongue was pierced with a 10-inch iron needle. After the piercing, he carried a sacred lamp known as the Mahadeep, an important part of the ritual procession. The procession then continued toward Bagu Tol, where a key ritual movement took place, the removal of the needle at the Panch Ganesh temple. The ceremony was finally concluded at the Mahalakshmi temple, marking the formal completion of the tradition. Local believes that the successful completion of the ritual brings good fortune to the village, ensures a good harvest, and helps prevent diseases. Meanwhile, the people of Madhya Pradesh also celebrate the vibrant Sindur Jatra, one of the most colorful cultural festivals in the region. Held on the second day of the Nepali New Year, it marks the arrival of spring season and the renewal of life. The Jatra begins with a tradition procession carrying the idols of Siddhi Ganesh, Siddhi Kali and other local deities from the Balkumari temple. As the procession moves forward, the streets of Timi turn a striking shade of red as thousands of devotees throw vermilion powder, sindoor, in the air and over one another in celebration. The festival features continuous procession of deities, accompanied by clouds of vermilion powder, rhythmic dhimi drum performances, and traditional dance. All procession finally converge in the open space in front of Balkumari temple for the concluding ceremony, which is why the festival is also known as the Balkumari Jatra. From celebration, we now turn to Dhading district, where 2 generations of a Chepang family spent their entire lives inside a cave, far removed from the basic rights guaranteed by the state. After decades of hardship, the family has finally received citizenship certificates. This long overdue recognition marks an emotional and life-changing moment for them. Article 10 of Nepal's constitution guarantees that no citizen shall be deprived of the right to obtain citizenship, while Article 37 ensures every citizen's right to housing. However, Istaram Praja and his wife, member of the Chepang community, were unable to exercise these rights even in their old age. They have now finally obtained citizenship certificates. Due to lack of citizenship, they were deprived of government social security benefits and for more inclusion. The couple had been living in a cave near the forest of Maibang in Dhading district for 2 generations. Officials from the district administration office Dhading delivered the documents at the cave where Praja and his family of 4 have been living. Although they were entitled to citizenship by descent, the couple remained without official documentation throughout their lives until now. The ward chairperson stated that the process of enrolling them in the Social Security Allowance scheme will begin soon.
अतीत सीमाङ्कित चेपाङको चाहिँ महाभारत लेखमै कुनाको आएर नागरिकता वितरण गरिदिनु भयो र उहाँलाई चाहिँ राज्यले दिने सेवा सुविधामा म भोलि नै सिफारिस फलो गरिहाल्छु मलाई कुनै पनि वञ्चित गर्दैनौ.
Following the issuance of their citizenship certificates, they have also completed the necessary steps to obtain national identity cards and the opening of bank account. Like this Chepang couple, many members of marginalized communities across Nepal have not received the state recognition. It continues to act as a barrier to accessing key social, economic, and political rights, as well as to social inclusion and shared national identity. Moving to growing concerns about the state of healthcare services in the country. Significant number of private health facilities in Nepal remain non-compliant with government regulations despite clear legal requirements. Weak monitoring and poor enforcement are often cited as key reasons for this negligence. Even in cities like Hetoda, several hospitals continue to fall short of meeting the minimum standards for healthcare services. The government of Nepal mandates comprehensive health standards focused on quality, safety and equitable access through frameworks such as the National Health Policy 2019. These standards regulate infrastructures, human resources, emergency services, water, sanitation and hygiene in health facilities. However, routine inspections conducted across various healthcare facilities in Makwanpur district, Nepal, have revealed serious concerns regarding public health compliance and systemic negligence. Many private healthcare centers operating in the district were found to be non-compliant with the minimum health services standard. An inspection led by the district administration office, Makwanpur, identified that several hospitals, polyclinics and pharmacies were providing services without meeting even basic requirements. At Sancho Hospital, services were being operated without valid license renewal. The emergency unit lacked essential medical supplies, including medicines and expired drugs, were found to be improperly stored and unmanaged. Similarly, Makwanpur Cooperative Hospital and Ramjanaki Medical Hall were found to be operating beyond their approved capacity of 25 beds, whereas a pharmacy at a city hospital was operating without a licensed pharmacist. Although authorized to sell allopathic medicines, the facility was also found selling Ayurvedic products and cosmetic without proper authorization.
औषधि पसलमा हुनुपर्ने जनशक्ति जस्तै चाहिँ औषधि बिक्री वितरणको लागि मापदण्ड अनुसार तोकिएको छ त्यो अनुसारको जनशक्ति नभएको कारणले गर्दा अस्पतालमा चाहिँ हामीले फार्मेसीलाई बन्द गरेका छौं उहाँहरूले सचेत पनि गराएका छौं पूर्वाधारहरू त्यसपछि औजार उपकरणहरू जनशक्तिहरू पुरा गर्नको लागि र त्यसै अनुसार सेवा उपलब्ध गराउनको लागि गुणस्तरीय सेवा उपलब्ध गराउनको लागि हामी सचेत गरेका छौं.
In a sector as sensitive as healthcare, such negligence can pose a serious risk to human life if not addressed promptly through effective government monitoring and enforcement. Now to next report. The Bhutanese refugee settlement in eastern Zappa district is facing escalating threat. The area has become increasingly unsafe due to frequent wild elephant attacks. Residents are urging authorities to take necessary action to manage and control elephant movements as their lives are increasingly at risk. Vijeta Bhandari, along with our correspondent Dikesh Lama, brings you this report.
43-year-old Shakuntala Bista Podel sits in mourning inside the Beldagi refugee camp in Chapa district of eastern Nepal, observing death rituals for her husband Tul Bahadur Bista. Beside her is her 10-year-old son Sudarshan, dressed in white with a shaved head. Bista was killed in a wild elephant attack on April 3rd while heading to a nearby forest area for fodder. His brother said the body was found only 4 days later.
रात परेको अनि भोलिपल्ट फेरि 4 दिन भइगयो है 4 दिनका चाहिँ अनि बनाउन थालेछ नि त त्यहाँबाट मलाई भेटेको नभेट्ने त्यो दिन पनि.
His death is part of a growing crisis in the camps, where at least 6 people have been killed by wild elephants in Beldagi refugee camp alone in recent times. As the refugee population has declined and settlements have become more scattered, residents are increasingly exposed to wildlife entering from nearby forests.
हात्तीहरु दिनै पछि आउने घरहरु भत्काइदिने हाम्रो चाहिँ अब अहिले संघ संस्थाले पनि जग्गा भनौं न त्यो क्षतिपूर्तिको कुराहरु नदिने
पहिला चाहिँ अब त्यस्तो खाले नानीहरु संरक्षण गर्नको लागि चाहिँ विभिन्न निकायहरु थिए यहाँनेरि संरक्षण गर्थे तर अब अहिले चाहिँ त्यो नभएको कारणले गर्दाखेरि निकै जोखिमै छ.
The situation stems from decades-long refugee crisis after more than 100,000 Bhutanese of Nepali origin fled Bhutan in the early 1990s and settled in camps in eastern Nepal. Today, only around 6,500 remain in places like Chapa in eastern Nepal, with majority of the rest having been a part of a third country resettlement programs. According to Secretary of the Beldagi Settlement
Settlement Management Committee. After international donor agencies stopped providing relief materials in the camps, refugees have turned to raising goats and other livestock for survival. But the dwindling support has pushed refugees into increasingly dangerous situations.
शिविरभित्रको छाप्राहरू भत्काउने र छाप्रामा खाना राखेको चामलहरू लाने.
A refugee crisis now burdened by thinning settlements, a lack of international aid, and now wild elephant attacks. In the Beldangi refugee camp, refugees who were resettled in this forested region since the 1990s have faced deaths from wild elephants, falling trees, and other hazards. But with the dawn of a new era of governance and the development policies, many hope that the newly formed government of Nepal will take urgent steps to address their safety and long-standing challenges.
And finally, returning to the festive spirit of the new year. On the eve of the celebration, Bhaktapur echoed with the rhythmic sounds of Dhime Baza. In an effort to preserve and promote a tradition, 47 Dhime groups from across various districts performed, adding vibrant energy to the celebrations. Beating in unison, the powerful rhythms of Dhime Baza set the tone for New Year celebrations in Bhaktapur. Cultural city of Kathmandu Valley. The historic Two Ponds area, Nigu Puku in Madhyapur Timi, Bhaktapur, hosted a rare cultural event on the eve of the Nepali New Year in open Dhime Baza competition. This unique event served as an important platform for showcasing the authenticity and richness of Bhaktapur's cultural heritage. A total of 37 troops representing various districts performed the powerful rhythms of Dhime Baza, reflecting the deep-rooted traditions of Newari culture. The enthusiasm of young Dhime performers, along with excitement of the audience, added to the festive spirit of welcoming the new year. Dhime Baza is a traditional cylindrical, double-headed drum that holds a central place in Newar culture in Nepal's Kathmandu Valley. It symbolizes joy and unity during festivals and jatras. The competition was organized to promote a skill transfer and encourage younger generations to learn and carry forward this cultural legacy. Alongside the competition, an exhibition featuring local products and handicrafts representing Bhaktapur's identity was also held. The visionary efforts of Madhyapur Thime municipality are expected to boost tourism while preserving art and culture.
के कार्यक्रमहरु गर्दाखेरि मध्यपुरलाई पर्यटकीय क्षेत्र र सांस्कृतिक क्षेत्रको रूपमा अगाडि बढाउन सकिन्छ बागमती प्रदेश सरकार त्यसको लागि पूर्ण रूपमा तयार छ.
With the aim of preserving tradition and promoting prosperity, this competition is expected to further enhance the cultural pride and dignity of Bhaktapur. Beyond the cities and the headlines, real lives continue to unfold. Stories shaped by struggle, strengthened by resilience, and carried forward by hope. This is the Hinterlands, and we will be back next week with more stories from the heart of Nepal. Do follow us on our website, nepaltelevision.com, social media handle, and YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us. Goodbye for now.
Only after 6 decades of the institutional development of the now popular game of cricket, did Nepal get the opportunity to play in the World Cup. Although cricket was introduced in Nepal during the Rana regime, the sport was confined to a limited number of people, namely the elite. It all started with equipment brought by students returning from their studies in Britain and India. Although Cricket Association of Nepal (CAN) was established in 1947, cricket remained centered among a few affluent individuals and in limited tournaments for a long time. Starting with the Vishnu Trophy in 1948, tournaments were limited to competitions like the Madan Memorial Sealed, Jugal Kishore Trophy, Rammani Trophy, and later the Jai Trophy. Even as the sport expanded outside Kathmandu Valley, it took decades for cricket to develop at the grassroots level. After the International Cricket Council (ICC) granted Nepal affiliate membership in 1988, Nepali cricket embarked on its international journey. The rule of mandatory participation in tournaments by the ICC and the Asian Cricket Council (ACC) opened doors to international competition for Nepal. After participating in the Under-19 Asian tournament in Hong Kong in 1996, Nepal has not looked back. Winning titles at the Asian and global levels, Nepali cricket team continues its journey towards the pinnacle of world cricket.
Goes down the ground because he was given that line outside off stump, so the first boundary of the contest, a handsome one.
Initially confined to Tulikhel in Kathmandu, many international tournaments were hosted in Nepal after an international standard ground was built in Kirtipur. Nepal has also shown its proactiveness in differently abled cricket tournaments like the T20 World Cup for the blind in 2012 and the Asian Cricket Tournament for the deaf. Nepali women's national cricket team has also achieved remarkable success in a short period of time. The latest addition in Nepali cricket is the floodlit Tribhuvan University Cricket Stadium and the Nepal Premier League that has provided opportunity for Nepali players to rub shoulders with world-class players. Hello, welcome to Declassified Beyond the Brief on NTV World. I'm Devendra Subedi. In this episode, we try to explore a young Nepali artist's journey From Kathmandu to the global stage, her journey from scribbling pictures in canvas to becoming the first contemporary Nepali artist to be included in the Museum of Fine Arts, Boston, United States, in itself is fascinating. We will try to explore art, its forms, the artist herself, her life and work, and that is no less than an example for all the budding artists. Let's welcome Sneha Shrestha, aka Imagine.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Let's start with this Imagine thing.
Sure.
Can you explain what this Imagine exactly is?
Sure. I mean, when I was first introduced to art as a young adult after graduating from college, I was really introduced to graffiti. And a lot of times graffiti artists have sort of what is called a street name. And when my mentor at that time asked me to choose a name, you know, I really didn't have an idea. But then I thought of what was closest to my heart, and I automatically thought of my mom. And my mom's name is Kalpana. And so when you translate Kalpana into English, it means imagination.
Is that what you're wearing right now?
Yes, actually. Yeah. This says Kalpana, and, you know, it's my way of keeping my mom close to my heart. And every time I sign my name, I get to write her name.
You were influenced by graffiti, as you said, and now sculpture also you are pursuing, and you are mural painter as well. You have followed different forms, the art, right? The name itself, this name that you have chosen, doesn't sound graffiti-like, but closer to your roots, your families. Was that something worked on or thought about?
Yeah, I wanted to choose something that felt like me. I didn't want, and I also needed like a shorter name, so like Imagine instead of Imagination made sense. And really my family and where I come from is really what roots me into my work, and so it made sense.
I'm really excited to have you here in our studios in Kathmandu.
Thank
we
you.
caught you as you were here in Kathmandu for some project work, as you said. What is art exactly, Sneha? How should we define art? I know it's a very abstract term. This could have multiple understanding and interpretations, but how would you, as a performing artist, define art?
Well, as a visual artist, I would define art as self-expression. It's a way of sharing how I see the world.
Just that much?
Yeah.
What about the feelings?
I mean that is like, that includes everything, right? Like how I see the world, how I'm feeling about it, how I want people to see what I'm seeing. I think it's a powerful form of self-expression.
Art is something you are interested in or you like. When was the first memories of drawing something? When was it?
I think my first memory was watching my mom translate these English children's books into Nepali children's books. It was a time where there weren't a lot of Nepali children's books, right? So I remember, you know, the story of the ant and the grasshopper. I remember it was, you know, my mom was translating these books. She would write them in Nepali, and then she would draw them into like large books. She was a teacher. She was a teacher. And so she would take that to her. She was my Nepali teacher, actually. And so she would take it to the classroom and teach us in Nepali, but she would make it exciting, right? If you think about the books, even till now, textbooks and maybe texts on newspapers kind of look similar. Right? But then the way she would draw these pictures larger than life and the letters, you know, like much larger so that kids can read it. I think that was my like really, you know, first memory of like being fascinated by what colors can do, what these like broken pieces of color pencils can do on paper. But I mean, I've loved art and painting really all my life. So I think it was just a matter of, you know, will I do
When
this?
would I just discover it?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a thing where I was like, I want to be an artist.
Was there somebody who saw the brighter side of your painting and told you that you should be doing this when you were a child?
That's a good question. I think I found myself getting drawn to painting all the time. It's just something that I loved doing, regardless of whether I had an art class or not. I just found myself doing it all the time. Even when I went to college, I had my, I majored in globalization studies. But in addition to that, I would find myself sneaking in art classes and making time for that. And so I just knew that that's something that felt like me, and I was just gravitated by it.
Any specific elements that you draw inspiration in your present day, let's say, art, Nepali culture, something that is rooted in something that is pretty Nepali-like?
Yeah, I think everything about my work is kind of rooted into where I come from, how I grew up in Kathmandu, my household, what my mom and dad showed me that is part of my, our tradition and culture as Newari people. I think it is hard to represent a whole country, being given that our country is so diverse. We speak more than 100 languages just inside Nepal, so it's impossible for me to represent the whole of Nepal. But what I realize is that I can tell the story of how I grew up, and hopefully other people can resonate with that. It really came from the need of expressing myself in terms of who I am. Because usually, I think even till this day when you're in the US, people are like, okay, you're from Nepal, oh, Mount Everest. That's about it, right? Yeah. And so how do I explain that I don't live anywhere close to Mount Everest? No, I haven't climbed it. Yes, I've seen it, but that doesn't tell my whole story. That doesn't tell your story. It doesn't tell my story, right? So I think it came from a struggle of saying, how do I tell people who I am? Where do I even start? I think that struggle became real over time. And I think art really helped me talk about, this is, how my mom does things at home. These are the colors that I was surrounded by growing up. These are temple, shapes of like different temples that is part of our, everyday architecture in Kathmandu. When you're walking around, there's a temple here, there's a temple there. There's so much fabric, like celebratory fabric around. And I think that's what I wanted to share. Because your identity isn't just one thing, it's all these things you're surrounded by, you grew up with. So I think that's where it really came from.
Tell me something about your fascination for that particular script.
Sure.
Because that connects to what you said just now. I'm fed up answering the question that I'm not somewhere near from Mount Everest. But you translated your art, you brought that into your art, expressing your culture somewhere there, very close to that. Is it your answer to that question by adopting that Devanagari in your art?
Sure, it feels closer to answering the question that I've ever gotten to, because Nepali letters are, I can confidently tell someone that these are Nepali letters. It's based in the Devanagari script. Devanagari script is used to write Nepali and Sanskrit and Hindi, and Sanskrit is one of the oldest written forms of languages in the world. And the fact that we can write Devanagari so casually, like a kid can write in Devanagari, like Nepali so casually, it's really a point of cultural pride for me to look at my native letters and be like, look, this is so important. So much of history is based on this. So much of written history is based on this. This is really something special, guys. Like, look at this. So getting to say that and being excited about it really got me started.
Everybody is an artist somewhere in the heart, they say, but until somebody recognizes it. Do you remember when was your first work of art? Somebody said that, yes, this is awesome. You should make more and more of it. Do you remember when was that moment?
That's such a good question. I'm smiling. I'm like smiling because there really wasn't that one time, it really took time to realize that this is something I want to do. This is something that I can make happen. It took a very long time. It wasn't like, going to school here and everything. I hadn't even met a real living artist in my life when I was in school. I hadn't been to a gallery, right? So all of that came later in my life. So it wasn't one moment. It was a series of moments that I looked back on and connected the dots. And I think that's what I continue to do, is connect the dots in terms of, okay, this makes sense. This feels good. Let's move forward with it. So I would say it was a series.
You got family support when you wanted to pursue this as a career?
I think it creeped up so slowly that it wasn't a turning point. It was like, I was taking my, whatever I was trying to do at that time along with my artwork. And so it built up over time. So there was no turning point in that, hey, I'm going to do this, sort of. But I would say there was one moment after I finished my master's where I spoke to my family and I was like, hey, just give me 1 year where I just want to try this. I feel like I've done everything. I'm confident that I can find a job if this doesn't work out. You just give me 1 year. I just want to try it out. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. And it's been 8 years since, so I'm not sure what to say.
You went to the US to pursue your bachelor's degree. Still, you're not aware that you're going to be an artist?
No.
Were you?
No. It wasn't, a lot of people ask me, like, is it a dream come true? And literally, it wasn't even in my dream. It wasn't in my vocabulary that it was something that I could do. Being born and raised here, it wasn't a career path that someone was like, hey, this is a possibility. I think, it happened over time as well. So, like, bachelor's degree is 4 years in the US. I think it was like 3.5 years in, my professor told me, you've taken enough art classes to be an art major. We know you're a globalization studies major, but do you also want to add this? You just need one more class. And I was like, wow, I had no idea. Sure. That's how I became an art major. It wasn't like I want to be an artist and I should, and I think even after graduation, I wasn't working as an artist. I was working at an arts nonprofit at that time, but I wasn't working as an artist. And I think it was over time that it happened.
As a student, how were you? You were a bright student, weren't you?
Good question. A lot of people, I think it's an interesting question to ask because I didn't consider myself a bright student when I was up till high school. I was in the same school from like 3rd grade till 12th grade. I wasn't considered a good student. I was considered like a troublemaker. I was always told I was like a bad kid, and that my ideas weren't valid ever. And I always used to have this question like, why can't I answer it this way? Because this seems like a right answer too. Like I was always curious, I think the first time I really enjoyed learning and I felt like I wanted to do my homework and wanted to read was when I took this anthropology class in college. And I was like, wow, this is so interesting. This is what it feels like to enjoy learning. And I guess that's the point where I started wanting to be a good student. I think before that, it felt like a necessity that was placed on me, as most students might feel. But at that point, I was like, wow, I really am looking forward to doing my homework. I want to read this book so that I know, what's going on in class and stuff like that. So it's a complicated question, to say the least.
Why I asked you this, because you studied at Harvard's in full scholarship.
Correct.
A dull student wouldn't do that. Or a dull student like me would not be able to do that, would I?
I think it's a definition of like what's a good student, right? Yeah. Is a good student, saying yes to everything? Is a good student following the instructions exactly like you've given them? Is a good student not asking any questions and just nodding your head in agreement? Or is a good student a critical thinker who will ask you questions back because they're curious? Because I'm that kind of student and I feel like I'm a student of life. I continue learning. So in terms of that, I am a student. But I'm not sure if a good student is like a...
Inquisitiveness in you led you to this career. If I say that, would I be wrong?
No, I think you'd be so right. I think it was that curiosity of like, what if? What if I gave myself 1 year to try this out? And not being scared to kind of take that step and being okay with the fact that it could not work out, and that's okay. But if it works out, that's great too. So being okay with the unknown is such an important thing to have, I think.
Would you say there's no harm in being bad by asking questions or being inquisitive? Follow your passion? Would you say that, or would you say be a good student, do your homework, listen to your parents and teachers? Which one would you suggest?
I would say both. I would say if you're smart, you have to be part of the paradigm too that the school system is set on. Yes, you do need to get good grades. You do need to be a good student. At the same time, also be yourself. If that means being curious and asking questions, then do that. So I think it's not just as simple as like follow your passion.
My next question, Sneha, being a Nepali, abroad for studies, following your passion, was it difficult initially?
Yeah, I think it's always difficult when you follow your passion, especially when it's something that no one has done before in your vicinity at least. I think that's why it took me a long time to come to it. I think if someone was like, hey, you're really good at art, you should think about being an artist, and this is what you need to do to be an artist. If someone told me that, I think I would have been in a different place now, but I think it was a lot of trial and error to figure out what I want to do. And I think it's important to do that at the same time, because that's sort of part of finding yourself, right? And once you do, there's really, you know, you kind of feel invincible in a way that you feel like this is me. And, you know, there's no doubt about it.
Tell us something about mural painting. How is it different from other forms of painting or art, let's say? What exactly is mural painting?
Sure. So my background has been in graffiti, and graffiti is based on, it's an art form based on letters. And, you know, it started in New York City by young people at a rebellion. And so they would paint really large pieces of like their name on trains, on walls. And so that's really what got me started. I was really interested in painting. Now murals are, you know, graffiti pieces can be murals. Graffiti is mostly like letters. It's a very big emphasis on looking at letters as images. Murals are large paintings on walls. I think in terms of aesthetics, it really depends on the viewers, like who is viewing it. I think that's the beauty of art, that it's subjective, right? It's like something that I love might not be something that you love, and that's okay. So a graffiti piece can be part of a mural. Mural is basically a really large work of art on like buildings and walls, and that's, you know, really large. So the aesthetics can really depend on the artist. It can be anything really. It can be a portrait. It can be someone's name really large. Yeah.
Allow me to ask this question. Is art emotion, expression, or devotion?
I think it's all of the above. I think it's so much of trying to express yourself in the most authentic way you know how. And I think without devotion, that is not possible, because it takes so much to come to understanding who you are, and then even more to understand what you want to say, especially when you're given a platform. So I think I would say it's all of the above.
Any special reason for choosing the first alphabet?
Sure. So when I started realizing that I wanted to use Devanagari script to create my paintings, there was this sense of empowerment that I had. I was like, wow, this makes so much sense. It's, you know, it's amazing. And then, you know, I used to try writing different words. But then when the pandemic hit, that was a difficult time for everybody, right? So, you know, I wasn't painting outside. I was just in my apartment. And I came back to painting in a way where I was, you know, I just wanted to feel sane. I just wanted to feel the comfort of maybe home. I was missing home so much. At that time, obviously, it wasn't a good time to come back home. So I was really turning to painting to find that comfort. And I was really thinking about, you know, what is the essence of home? If I can't, is it just a physical space? And if it's not, then what is the essence of home? And one of the sort of like things that I thought about was home is like the same comfort that you have when you can run up the stairs of your home, even when the lights are out. During load shedding, every Nepali kid, you can go up and down your stairs.
They could do that,
yeah,
because they know it.
Exactly. That's home, right? That's the comfort of home. That's the familiarity of home. And I wanted to capture that essence. And then I could only write ka. I found myself writing ka over and over again, just like a meditation. And then over time, I was just obsessed with, you know, how I want to write it. And then after that, I was like, okay, now I want to write it the exact same way. Like, I'm pretty sure you can write ka with your eyes closed. Why? Because it's the first letter that we learned how to write. And it's the same as the comfort of home. So when I figured that out, I was like, yes, I just want to write this for now. And that's where, you know, the repetition of like the letter ka began. So.
What satisfies you the most? the price that your work fetches, the comment from critics, or the relief that you feel after expressing yourself out?
That's a good question. I think it's the reason why I chose this job is because this is that one job for me that lets me be myself 100% real and be myself 100% in the most authentic way I know how. So if in a project I'm able to express myself 100% like that, that is what makes me really happy and satisfied. And yeah, and I think it's a powerful thing to be able to be yourself 100% of the time, every single day. And then over time, you also learn to be okay with yourself. So I would say, yeah, I think authenticity, my voice is what's most important to me, which is why I do what I do. So I would say that's what would make me more...
What is the best compliment you have received from somebody who loves art after having seen your work?
Oh, wow. That's a really good question. I think it depends on who says it. I think what jumps in my mind right now is when, like in Boston or even here in Kathmandu, when I meet young people and they say, you know, I could really see what you're trying to do, what you're trying to show. Or like in Boston, there might be Nepali families who come and show, like parents, they show their kids, like, you know, this is what it is and this is what she's trying to do and I'm not even around. I think that's the biggest compliment for me.
Let's go to mural painting again. Can you just walk us through the process from the concept, designing, and up to the wall? Can you just walk us through the process? How does it go?
Sure. So a big part of the mural, of creating a mural, especially a really large one, is the collaboration element of it. For example, my 6-story tall mural on the MIT building, that took a lot of collaboration. Even before the painting process began, we have to work with the city, permits, the local business district people, and then local stakeholders, people in the neighborhood. I think that's the part that's invisible, but that's the part that takes most time. Can we paint this wall? Is this wall stable to be able to be painted?
Once you're done with all the, let's say, legals and those sort of formalities, now it's time to conceptualize your vision on the field. How long does it take? Your MIT, let's say, mural you're talking about.
Yeah, I started by like taking photos of the wall, and then I also spend a lot of time in front of the wall to see how people walk around it. I want to see how people experience the wall, what the wall looks like at sunset, at sunrise, because my work is going to be there and I want it to have a good home. I want it to make sense. So it's a big part of it is understanding the environment that I'm in. And then I start, taking pictures, and then I'll print them, and then I'll sketch on the building, and then start the process.
Sneha is the first Nepali artist whose work has been acquired by 2 world-famous fine art museums. How does it feel, Sneha, to have that heavy cap over your head?
It's pretty exciting. I think it's, the Museum of Fine Arts, the painting that was acquired, it's in their permanent collection, and to think that it's going to be there long after I'm gone for other Nepali people and people of various cultures to be able to see, I think that's a really powerful thing for me to realize. I think it's wonderful to be able to see a contemporary Nepali voice. I think it takes away from the mysticism, the stereotypical kind of box that Nepali people and Nepali culture is usually put into, especially in Western museums. We're seen as this culture of ancient, of past, but the truth is we're a living tradition, we're a living culture. We're people who practice all these things till this day. We're not just people of the past. I think it's important to leave behind such stories in important institutions like museums. And the other one is at the Harvard Art Museums. It's a sculpture that they acquired, and it's going to be on long-term view, and it's in their collection as well.
Fine art museums like Boston or Harvard, they are acquiring pieces from artists from Asia as well. Are they becoming more and more open to the international artists as well, or if I say that, I'd be just undermining your creative talent?
I think the world is globalizing, has globalized over time, right? And the US is a melting pot of various cultures. I do think there's a realization that there needs to be a representation for all these cultures that make up the country. And so it's an important time to be part of that conversation.
So you were the first to be from this country. Now, does that inspire you to work harder and what's next am I going to do sort of thing? Does that give you more inspiration or make you more desperate?
It encourages me. It gives me a signal that I'm doing something right, and it feels right. And people from various parts of Nepal that I meet in Boston and other parts of the US, I feel encouraged by them when they see it. I think people who visited Nepal and are not necessarily Nepali see Nepal in my work, and that's a point of pride. It just gives me a green signal that I'm doing something right. And I'm motivated to keep going.
How does it feel to be the cultural ambassador of the country in the melting pot?
Around
the world you're traveling. How does it feel?
That's a huge phrase to take on.
You are, Sneha. You are the first artist from this country to be represented there. Not just represented, but acquired by those institutions. So that does give you the tag of being our cultural ambassador abroad.
I feel like it's important to carry on the work that I'm doing. I think it's important to share to younger people what I'm doing and how I'm doing it so that maybe the younger generation can do it even better than I am doing it, and I hope that they do. I think it's so important to carry my people wherever I go, however the best I can. At the end of the day, I'm just one person, so hopefully there's more people who get the opportunity to do the same and represent, their part of their Nepali life.
This is Declassified, and we are talking with Sneha Shrestha, contemporary Nepali mural artist, sculpture, graffiti-based artist, and a fusion artist. In the next part of the conversation, now we talk about the best works of Sneha. Which of the works that you have done so far is closest to your heart? I would be definitely not doing justice to you by asking this question. I know you are the creator. Everything is very, very dear to you. But still, if you have to pick one,
sure.
Which one would you pick?
I mean, my mentor has always told me you're only as good as your last piece. And so I would love to talk about, my most recent show at the Institute of Contemporary Art. These are pictures from the Institute of Contemporary Art where I'm currently exhibiting my work. It's part of the Foster Prize show. The Foster Prize is one of the most prestigious art prizes in Boston, and it's something that I've been eyeing for the past 6 years, and I've really wanted that prize really badly. And you can't apply for it, you have to get selected for it. And when you get selected, you get to have the show at the Institute of Contemporary Art, and it's for Boston artists. And so to be selected for that felt incredible. And when something I wanted came to fruition, it was like, okay, it's time to do what you felt ready to do for a long time, is have sort of like this first solo museum show, and you get to show a big body of work.
How are you expressing yourself in these two pieces?
Sure, so these two pieces are part of that show at the Institute of Contemporary Art, the ICA in Boston. These two pieces are my first art-shaped paintings. These are 7 feet each, and they contribute to the architectural feel of the space. In this, you see fractals of the Devanagari script. So they're not necessarily words, but if you looked at the alphabet really zoomed in really close, that's what you would see, in my opinion.
I can see Ka on the blue side of the canvas.
Yes. So I call it like the shadow part. So if you think of an arch, that's sort of like the shadow part of the painting. That's where you see the repetition of Ka. And I brought the Ka there because my first painting acquired by the Museum of Fine Arts, that painting is a repetition of Ka over and over again.
Let's move on to the next one.
So this is the painting that was acquired by the Museum of Fine Arts, Boston, and it so happened that when my mom was visiting me, it was on view, and so I got to take her there and, show it, and her, reaction just...
This must be very close to you. Ka there, your mother, Kalpana there, and you are the Imagine there. So this is a masterpiece,
This
I would
was
say.
a special moment for sure, and this was a painting I actually created in 2020 during that time that I told you about during the pandemic, you know. And the curator, Laura Weinstein at the MFA, recognized that, and she chose this as the painting to be acquired.
Probably this is the largest piece you have of mural you have painted?
It's not the largest, but it is the tallest. It's about 60 feet tall, so like 6 stories. And it's in the heart of Cambridge, and it's at the confluence of various neighborhoods. You know, MIT is right there, so a lot of students get to see it. A lot of Nepali students at MIT have shown me the you know, that they're there and like tagged me on it, which is super cool. Yeah.
You just do it all alone, right? Or you just need some helping hand to finish this piece?
No, I wish I could get a helping hand, but because it's my handwriting on the wall, I do it all myself.
So all alone, apart
Correct.
from the machinery that has been used, it's all you who has done it?
Yes, and I operate the machine as well. So the articulating boom lift that you see me here, I operate it myself. And my photographer was on the other end of it taking this photo.
Okay, this is how it looks once it's done.
Yeah, so for scale, you can see like tiny people on the bottom.
So it's a really huge mural. Tell me something about this one. This I can clearly see car, your very dear car there. Tell me something. Where is it?
I think this is in Michigan. This was the moment where I really was dedicated to the letter Ga, and I felt confident enough to paint it so large and be able to tell people, you know, this is the first letter of the Nepali alphabet, and this is what it means to me. And so I feel like this moment was that moment where I felt like I have arrived. I'm so confident in telling people about this language that they know nothing about. But I felt, you know, that I could.
Tell us something about this one, Sneha.
Sure. So this is a sculpture. It's called Dwarpalika. This is the sculpture that was acquired by the Harvard Art Museums. It's currently on view. We actually just installed it before I left. And, you know, my parents were able to see it. And this is, you see the repetition of Ka. It's made out of brass and powder-coated steel. And yeah, it's sort of suspended from the ceiling, and it kind of has this aura about her. I call her because there's that energy that she has, and there's a environment that's like built around her because of the shadows that are laid on the floor. So it's a really special piece for me.
When the creator like you hand your piece of work to museums like this, how does it feel? Like shedding your skin or something like that?
It feels emotional because I remember the day that I packed this. You know, it takes a long time for acquisitions, for museum acquisitions to happen. And so when I recognized that it was the last day that I packed her up and dropped her off at this storage facility. It's like, you don't drop it off at the museum. So storage facility, and I just said, the next time I see her, she's going to be installed. And I definitely had a tear in my eye, and I was just like, wow, it feels like such a moment to kind of take in. And it's, it's bittersweet for sure, because you work towards something for so long, and then it's going to be at this really important place for a very long time. It's definitely an important moment.
Sneha, let's talk about this one. This looks really, really large.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty large mural. It's in East Boston. It's by the water. Mm-hmm. So you can see it from the other shore of Boston. And it was this really special piece that I got to do, and I wanted to make sure that I did 3 circular shapes, because 3 is such a sacred number with everything that we do in our rituals and pujas and everything. And so I really wanted to talk about that. And it is... yeah, it's one of my largest works.
Fantastic. We're so much fascinating these works, Sneha.
Thank you.
Please allow me to do this, okay? Pick one of these pictures. Of all these pictures we have done and your sculptures we have displayed here, if you had to, okay? You can't escape this.
Okay.
Pick one only.
Okay. I think I would pick the Cambridge one. The Cambridge mural that you saw, the really tall one, because that tested me in different ways. That it's kind of like building a muscle, right? You're tested and there's pain, and then you grow stronger from it. I think it's one of those pieces. That's why it's so close to my heart. And also, so many people have kind of, at this point, the mural kind of belongs to the city. It's not my work anymore. So many people attach their stories. So many people have gotten married in front of the mural, like take their wedding photos.
You must be a special guest in those ceremonies.
No, but I get sent these photos. Young Nepali students at MIT take selfies in front of it. I mean, it's really part of the city's DNA at this point. And so I'm really honored to have that work there.
Fantastic. The works of Sneha Shrestha, aka Imagine, some of her works. These are just some of the works that she has produced. There are so many things. She's working globally, working with multinational projects where she's working not only in the US but around the world. Now, last part of our conversation, Sneha, you are an inspiration to the youth. What message do you have for them? All those who want to pursue their passion and build a career out of it, or let's say pursue their passion only.
Sure, I would say take time to figure out what you want to do. It might not be as soon as you graduate high school. It might not be as soon as you finish your bachelor's degree. It's a process. I would say look at it as a process and make sure that you find joy in the process. And there's no really this end place that you get to that you'll find happiness in. I would say if you're happy in the process, then you're really closer to finding yourself. Figure out what is the most authentic version of you and kind of use that as a compass to pursue whatever you're pursuing. So the message here isn't go out and be an artist. The message is, find out who you are and what you love doing. And that might not be your job immediately, but just finding something that you love doing is such an important part of being. So, yeah.
What message would you like to give to the youngsters who are looking up to you as inspiration?
I would say it's okay to be different. It's okay to think differently. It's okay to ask questions. And it's so important to have mentors. I think those are the things that I would love to share with younger people.
What is life, Sneha?
Life? I think it's a process. I think it's like this fun process that you get to try different things out in. And yeah, I think that's what life is.
Striking a balance in life, how important it is.
I think it's so important to balance out. I think it's important, first of all, to find a compass of what guides you. For me, what guides me is my happiness, and that could mean in different ways. That means being able to see my parents as often as I want. That means being a good friend. That means building communities in both of my homes, in Kathmandu and in Boston. These are things that really kind of make my life, and kind of make things clear, like what are important to me, and that's my community, that's my friends and my family. And I think once you have that compass, everything kind of starts falling into place.
Last question to you, Sneha. Your career goals and your personal goals.
Sure. I think this sounds so, I'm not trying to boast it, but I think I'm living it as, career and personal goals. As an artist, it kind of melds into one thing. And I want to take both of them side by side. So if my career helps me express myself even better, that's amazing. Things that I might say no to, that might be, for my personal life. And I think balancing those things is quite important. But both of that is still me. So I got to take both of them in a balanced way. So, yeah. Okay, so I have something that I brought for you. It's a sticker, and it has the first letter, Ka, on it. And it's something that I do for everybody that I meet. I give them a sticker. And the background for that is really, when graffiti writers meet each other, we exchange stickers. Street artists, murals, we exchange stickers. And I really like to do that. And stickers something, playful and a little bit of joy. So, yeah.
My privilege, Sneha. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful conversation with a Nepali contemporary artist who is definitely a world-class artist, Sneha Shrestha, whose name in itself is imagined, that correlates to her roots, her mother. Thank you so much for watching this show, and definitely do follow us on our website, our social media handles. Until next time, from me and my entire crew of Declassified, bye-bye.
Music, dance, food, art and devotion are the lifeblood of Mewar culture, an ancient civilization rooted in the Kathmandu Valley of Nepal. With lively festivals nearly every fortnight, the Newars celebrate life through a rich tapestry of traditions known as Jatra, deeply intertwined with the rhythms of agriculture. This is a culture where every celebration is a living expression of heritage, community, and spiritual joy. Welcome to the ancient heart of the Kathmandu Valley, Chaba Hill. Here lies a sacred nexus of faith and tradition, Sri Chandravinayak Temple.
The wishes of the devotees, for instance, moving abroad, or the most important is to get rid of want and allergies. And if we lose something, then we offer a kisli, an ancient small bowl made of clay in which we put rice and a supari with a coin. It is believed we retrieve the lost thing and wounds or allergies.
This location is not just a place of worship, it is the stage for one of the region's most vibrant annual celebrations, Sri Chandravinayak and Sri Bhairavnath Jatra.
The beginning of the Jatra is always according to the Newari date, what we call Sakimana Puni. Puni means full moon. It starts from the time of Kartik Purnima, and for this we have to take the auspicious time for the Jatra. There is a place called Amalkot Kachevi. We go there about a week in advance to get the auspicious time. After they give us the auspicious time, then we start the management things.
This festival holds a significance at par with our grandest celebrations like Dasai and Tihar for the local residents of Chaba Hill. It's a time when the community unites and the entire area bursts into life.
Old-aged people are the contributors for the contribution of this Jatra festival. In early days, it was done during days, and the deities were kept in a basket from the sources. Now, we use chario because to local resident people like us. This festival is like Dasai and Tihar. Those are the greatest festival for Nepalis. Another reason is that a lot of people worship Lord Ganesh. The importance of the four Lord Ganesh is advertised. That is why there are lots of devotees visiting the temple. More than importance, it is the preservation of our culture and heritage that we are trying to do best.
The Jatra centers around two powerful deities, Lord Ganesh, known here as Chandrabinayak, and the fierce protector Bhairavnath.
We also consider Chandra Binayak Bhagwan as the first deity, right? The god who received blessings from Shiva Parvati or the parents. The first one who remember and worship when we humans worship is Sri Ganesh Bhagwan. All the Hindu Sanatan Dharma followers all over the world consider Ganesh Bhagwan as the first deity. Similarly, Chandra Binayak, the name is different, but their feeling and over devotion towards them is the same. Similarly, Bhairavnath, who is located here in Chabel, Bhairavnath is considered to be a deity who originated here naturally even before Ganesh Bhagwan. Now we consider Bhairav as a form of Shiva, as a part of Shiva, right? In this way, we consider Chandra Binayak Bhagwan and Bhairavnath as the center of our faith. Another interesting aspect is this is also in the form of a legend. Our Chandra Binayak Bhagwan loves outsiders more than us locals. The reason for that is maybe because they come from so far away with so much hardship. God gives them more blessing. That's how we take it.
Historically, the architecture itself whispers tales of antiquity. The temple complex standing near the ancient Charumati Stupa showcases relics dating back to the literary period, as far back as the 5th to 6th centuries. While the main idol of Sri Chandrabinayak has seen renovations over centuries, notably during the Malla era, the site's spiritual lineage is deep-rooted.
हाम्रो यो गणेशलाई चाहिँ चन्द्रविनायक चार गणेशमध्ये एक गणेश भगवान हो एक गणेश जस्तै चन्द्रविनायक सूर्यविनायक जलविनायक अशोक विनायक
Sri Chandra Binayak is one of the most important lord in the four Binayak, Surya Binayak, Chandra Binayak, Jal Binayak and Ashok Binayak. This jatra was initiated during the Lichavi period as Ganesh Kumari and Lord Bhairav were way before this time frame is known. It is believed that Lord Bhairav is the protector and of the local residents of Chabel, and the prasad is said to cure diarrhea and cholera.
The unique feature of this celebration is the dual focus. While the pillar of Bhairavnath was historically renowned, the divine presence of Lord Ganesh is equally honored. The festival marks the time when the forces unite, celebrated through grand processions and rituals that honor the valley's layered history, blending Hindu and ancient Buddhist iconography.
यो जात्राको विशेषता भनेको चाहिँ हजुरहरुलाई भन्नु पर्दा
Now we are busy with jobs and businesses. But the previous generation were all in agriculture, and this time, which falls in Kartik and Mangsir, is the time when it gets cold, or the time to harvest the crops, and the time to rest after being tired from harvesting the crop. So, on the first day of the Jatra, we offer the new crop, the various crops that have been harvested, such as wheat, soybeans, rice, lava, all these as halimali prasad to Ganesh Bhagwan. After offering that to God, then all our families relax, thinking that our agricultural work is done and we have a new feast. Thank the gods and have a palanquin procession and a feast. This is how we are moving forward in its main religious, social all forms.
The main celebration commences on the full moon day of Hindu month Kartik, which typically falls in November.
The first day of the full moon of Kartik, we lit a sacred fire known as Dhuni. Second day is Ganesh Jatra here in the temple. On the third day, we take the chariot to Chuchepati and end the 4 days ceremony with Sindur Jatra.
The day begins with solemnity as a great sacred fire. The Dhuni is lit for the well-being of all people, a ritual known for devotees gathering together to warm themselves, believing it grants health benefits and religious merits. The climax is the Rath Yatra, the chariot procession. The chariots of Bhairavnath are elaborately decorated, and the image of Sri Chandravinayak is also brought out for worship.
Playful chariot battle is done as Lord Ganesh is worshipped at first, and the chariot of Lord Bhairav ramps up the chariot of Sri Chandravinayak 3 times, believing this long ceremonial ritual. It is also believed that when the chariot strikes that place is protected from the divine. Previously, chariots were stopped in front of every house, but nowadays it is only stopped in most important places of Chabel due to urbanization.
We see traditional mock rituals, like a playful struggle where Ganesh attempts to enter the main sanctum depicting ancient mythology played out in the streets. The deities are later bathed in the ancient Gangahiti, a water source just north of the temple, a ritual that can last late into the night. The atmosphere is one of joyous devotion and playful energy.
The head priest is selected from Pasupati Development Trust, who are the employees themselves. They are given a specific special area for the formal event. Previously, they used come in barefoot, but now we have solved their problem with this new space. They use the traditional tantric ritual to worship the deities. After the tantric rituals done by the priests, the deities get a new form. It can be seen with the change of the ornaments, same like the day as Lord Ganesh is worshipped, especially on Tuesday. His form is more strong and divine, and the ornaments used in the jatras are special, not the one being used every day. Lord Ganesh is worshipped by the Sakya priests with their own rituals, and the Lord Bhairav is worshipped by the Vajracharya priests according to their own rites and rituals. Now, not many Sakya and Vajracharya priests are here in Nepal to forward this ancient ceremonial festival.
More than just religious rites, the Jatra is a powerful social binder. It is the time when relatives are invited as honored guests, transforming Chabhal into a hub of reunion and festivity. The homes themselves become part of the decoration illuminated to celebrate the occasion.
We are teaching our kids the same what we did learn from our earlier generation, and we have already started to train them. Now, our daughter and sons do not attend college just to take part in this heavenly festival. They are interested in their culture and promoting it with full confidence. That's why we are trying to teach them everything what we learn to keep our tradition and culture alive. Every year a new face is introduced so that they participate with full confidence and happiness with equality. Whoever is devoted and interested, they are welcomed and given priority here.
Devotees strongly believe that participating in this jatra guarantees the same spiritual blessings as worshipping the deities throughout the entire year. Consequently, the number of culture enthusiasts joins the thousands of pilgrims each year.
In this crowd, we are moving forward in our race of life. Mostly people go abroad for studies or money, but there are many friends like us who feel that our identity, the heritage of our country, the greatest assets of our country is our culture, which our ancestors have been handing over to us. This is our identity. If this identity is not preserved, then in the future neither our existence nor the existence of the nation of Nepal will remain. We are working hard, we are suffering, but we are devoted. God is helping us. That's why we don't have to go abroad. God is watching over us. We always have one thing, that our devotion to God is always awakened, and the work we do is also a devotion to God. And the main thing we do is for the good of all our Nepalese residents, for the good of the country. That's why we always work hard.
To manage this growing vibrant event, the locals have set up a coordination committee to ensure everything runs smoothly and joyfully.
Now this management, which we have formed as Sri Chandra Vinayak and Bhairabnath Jatra Coordination Committee. Actually, there are separate Guthi, Palas and religious Guthi that have been established earlier to conduct the Jatra. But this issue, gradually, as the youth migrate and a generation gets older, it's become difficult to operate. Not only for the Guthi Palas. Then, to play a coordinating role, we formed this committee. The coordination committee, it includes all the Ganesh Palas, Bhairav Palas and the Guthi that carries Chhatra. There is a Guthi called Kha Guthi. There are many such Guthi. We have included all of them and formed a working committee and started organizing this program in this way. It has been more than 10 years now.
After the coordination committee was established, we have operated with the process and the rituals of Jatra. After this Jatra ends, the Guyeswari Jatra is commenced with the Muktinath Baja Khala. It's been 6 years as we are getting funded by the Pasupati Development Trust.
This historic and ancient cultural heritage of Chabahil stands as a vital part of Nepal's identity. Preserving and revitalizing this tradition requires a collaborative commitment from the nation as a whole and from every Nepali, both at home and abroad.
It's been 6 years as we are getting funded by the Pasupati Development Trust, increasing the fund by 10% every year. As I have known, it is 70 to 80,000 rupees. From the municipality office, we are also funded 10 lakh Nepalese rupees. But as the governmental process takes time and the taxes are deducted, we get 8 lakh rupees in total for the festival. So we all residents of Chabahil gather together and collect fund if the scarcity occurs. But we do not stop the festival.
Active participation and support are essential to safeguard and promote these cultural celebrations that uphold our national heritage.
Ships have come to a standstill in the Strait of Hormuz after Iran resumed its blockade of the strategic waterway, according to marine traffic tracking data showing no vessels crossing the passes. The escalation comes amid renewed tensions between Tehran and Washington, with Iranian officials and U.S. leaders exchanging contrasting statements on the status of negotiations. Iran's parliamentary speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf described the U.S. stance on Iranian ports as foolish, but said some progress have been made in talks, while stressing that both sides remain far from a final agreement. On the other side, U.S. President Donald Trump said very good conversations were taking place with Iran, but warned that Washington would not allow Tehran to blackmail the United States over the strait. He added that restrictions will remain in place until a full agreement is reached, saying the blockade will continue until their transaction with Iran is 100% complete.
They have no Navy, they have no Air Force, they have no leaders, they have no nothing. Actually, their leaders are, it is regime change. You call that enforced regime change, but we're talking to them. They wanted to close up the strait again, you know, as they've been doing for years, and they can't blackmail us. In fact, a lot of the ships are coming up to Texas. I don't know if you know, in Louisiana, the ships are coming up. They got used to it. Maybe they'll keep doing it. It's worked out pretty good. But it's going actually along very well, and we'll see. But we'll have some information by the end of the day. We're talking to them, and you know, we're taking a tough stand. They've killed a lot of people.
Iran, meanwhile, says the Strait of Hormuz will remain closed until U.S. sanctions and pressure measures are lifted. The situation follows reports of further maritime incidents, including claims that Iranian gunboats opened fire on a tanker in the strait, while other vessels reported being struck by unidentified projectiles over the weekend. Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister Saeed Khatibzadeh said no date has been set for a new round of face-to-face talks with the U.S., criticizing what he called Washington's maximalist demands. Amid rising tensions, both sides acknowledge that negotiations remain ongoing but fragile, with international mediators continuing to exchange messages in an effort to prevent further escalation. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has condemned a U.S. decision to extend the period during which Russia is allowed to sell oil despite Western sanctions. The move means countries can purchase Russian oil and petroleum products already loaded on vessels at sea until 16th of May. The U.S. argues that the waiver is to ease the energy supply crunch sparked by the U.S.-Israel war with Iran. But in his remarks on Sunday, Zelensky said every dollar paid for Russian oil is money for the war in Ukraine. Widespread sanctions have been put in place against Russia since President Vladimir Putin launched his full-scale invasion of its neighbor in February 2022. Meanwhile, Ukrainian emergency services responded to widespread fires and destruction following large-scale Russian strikes across multiple regions of the country. In the southern city of Kherson, officials reported a drone strike that hit a car, while in the northern town of Sostka in Sumy region, private homes were set on fire after being struck by Russian UAVs. Officials also confirmed casualties in nearby regions where residential buildings and an educational facility were hit in strikes that left a 16-year-old boy and 4 others injured. Firefighters have been deployed to tackle ongoing blazes and secure affected areas as assessments of damage and casualty figures continue. Thousands marched through central Milan to attend a rally hosted by Europe's far-right leaders protesting against irregular immigration and Brussels bureaucracy in a major political demonstration. The gathering was the first of its kind since the electoral defeat of Hungarian nationalist leader Viktor Orban, and brought together supporters of Patriots for Europe party, the third largest bloc in the European Parliament. Protesters assembled in front of Milan's Duomo Cathedral, where the rally was held under heavy police presence. Officials deployed significant security measures to separate the demonstration from a counter-rally organized by anti-fascist groups, which also drew thousands of participants to the city center. Officials monitored both events closely amid concerns over potential clashes, as Milan became the focal point of competing political mobilizations reflecting growing tensions over migration and EU governance.
Pope Leo XIV has arrived in Angola for a 3-day visit to the well-rich southern African nation where around a third of the population lives in poverty. The US-born pontiff's plane landed at Luanda, the capital of the Portuguese-speaking country, which has an estimated 15 million Catholics, representing about 44% of the population. On the second day of his visit, thousands gathered in the capital for a large open-air mass led by the Pope as part of his ongoing four-nation tour of Africa. The tour comes as Angola continues to face sharp economic disparities despite its resource wealth, with widespread poverty remaining a key challenge. The Pope's trip is aimed at strengthening ties with Catholic communities across the continent with a focus on peace building, social justice, and support for vulnerable populations. From squats in a gas mask to trying on bulletproof vest, Germany's armed forces, the Bundeswehr, is showcasing military-style fitness challenges at its recruitment, both during FIVO, the world's largest fitness trade fair in Cologne. The interactive displays are part of a broader effort to attract younger audiences and present military service as a career option through physical endurance tests and equipment demonstrations. Activities at the booth include strength exercises, protective gear trials, and simulated training tasks designed to reflect aspects of military readiness. While Germany currently has no plans to reintroduce compulsory military service, officials say the campaign is aimed at improving awareness of career opportunities within the armed forces. The Bundeswehr says its goal is to emphasize that it is an absolutely attractive employer as it seeks to strengthen recruitment in a competitive labor market. The 91-year-old South Korean sculptor Kim Yoon-shin is receiving renewed and long overdue recognition for a distinctive artistic practice, which she has developed over decades of working largely outside the spotlight of her home country. Known for her unconventional use of chainsaw as a primary carving tool, Kim creates bold abstract sculptures from hardwood, reflecting both physical intensity and deep artistic discipline. After years of limited recognition in South Korea, she is now being celebrated as a pioneering figure in contemporary sculpture. Her work is being currently showcased in a major retrospective at the Hoam Museum of Art in South Korea titled To Be One. The exhibition holds special significance as it is the museum's first solo exhibition dedicated to a woman artist since its establishment in 1982. It features a wide selection of her signature works, highlighting her unique approach to form, material, and abstraction, developed over a lifetime of artistic exploration. The Shenzhou 21 crew aboard China's orbiting Tiangong space station completed their mission's third series of extravehicular activities, EVAs, according to the China Manned Space Agency, CMSA. The astronaut trio, Zhang Liu, Wu Fei, and Zhang Hongzhang, worked for roughly 5.5 hours and completed their EVAs, assisted by the space station's robotic arm and a team on Earth. The trio completed the installation of a space debris protection device for the space station and extravehicular equipment and facility inspections, among other tasks. Zhang Liu, the commander of the Shenzhou 21 mission, and Wu Fei conducted the spacewalk and returned to the Wentian lab module safely, according to the CMSA. Zhang Liu has so far carried out 7 EVAs, making him one of the Chinese astronauts with the most spacewalks to date. Since completing their second series of EVAs on March 16, the Shenzhou 21 astronauts have steadily advanced experiments in areas such as space life sciences, human research, and microgravity physical science. They have carried out in-orbit environmental monitoring, equipment inspection and maintenance, and supply management. The crew has also completed a full system pressure emergency drill, emergency life support training, and preparations for extravehicular activities. The 3 astronauts have been in orbit for more than 5 months and remain in good working and living condition. The annual Char Dham Yatra has begun in northern India's Uttarakhand state known as Devbhoomi or the Land of Gods. Considered as one of the country's most auspicious pilgrimages, the journey attracts hundreds of thousands of devotees from across India and around the world. The Char Dham Yatra covers 4 sacred Hindu shrines, Yamunotri, Gangotri, Kedarnath and Badrinath. Every year, large number of pilgrims undertake this spiritual journey to seek divine blessings. For local communities, the pilgrimage season is the most crucial time of the year as livelihoods depend heavily on the influx of visitors. Officials say nearly 1.5 pilgrims have already registered for this year's journey, with numbers expected to increase in the coming weeks. Officials have put in place extensive security arrangements, deploying police and SDRF personnel at key locations, particularly along the Yamunotri trekking route to ensure crowd management and safety. Continuous surveillance is being carried out through CCTV cameras and drones, along with checking and frisking to prevent any untoward incidents. The pilgrimage season, which officially began with the opening of the Gangotri temple doors on April the 19th, marks the start of a 6-month-long spiritual journey. The Hanoi Department of Ethnic Culture has brought together around 300 artisans and representatives from all 54 ethnic groups across the country in a large-scale cultural program in the capital to mark Vietnam Ethnic Group's Cultural Day. The program is part of a series of events running until early May. Organizers say the initiative aims to preserve and promote Vietnam's intangible cultural heritage through live demonstrations and public participation. Among the featured highlights are recreations of traditional rituals, including the new rice ceremony of the Chu-Ru people and the double wedding customs of the Thai people. Visitors are also offered hands-on experiences such as making Ma Long coconut rice paper alongside other cultural activities designed to reflect the diversity of Vietnam's ethnic traditions. Officials say the event not only promotes cultural exchange but also reinforces efforts to safeguard and sustain the country's rich ethnic heritage for future generations. As part of the exhibition, Michelangelo Rodin Living Bodies, the Louvre Museum in Paris is hosting 8 dancers from the Paris Opera Ballet for 2 special performances titled Stars Beneath the Pyramid, aimed at bringing together visual art and a live performance within the museum space. The performances are designed to foster an art dance, with organizers highlighting the interaction between movement and the museum's historic collection as a central theme of the event. Organizers say the aim is to make art more engaging by connecting movement with classical artworks. According to planning for the Louvre's Auditorium and Performing Arts Department, the initiative seeks to create a dialogue between the arts by integrating choreography with the exhibition environment. Visitors will be able to see live dance performances set against the museum's iconic sculptures, creating a unique cultural experience. The event forms part of the museum's broader effort to expand interdisciplinary programming, blending performing arts with fine art exhibitions to engage audiences in new interpretive experiences. China has staged a half marathon in Beijing featuring humanoid robots competing alongside human runners in a demonstration of rapidly advancing robotics and artificial intelligence technology. The event showcased multiple robot models designed to mimic human movement while completing the full race distance, highlighting improvements in balance, endurance, and real-time decision-making systems. Organizers say the competition is intended to examine the limits of current robotic engineering under real-world conditions. Spectators gathered along the course to watch the unusual format, which blended athletic competition with technological exhibition. Many viewed the event as a sign of how robotics is increasingly moving from lab research into public and performance settings. They said with the rapid pace of technological development, robots will soon surpass humans in many areas, not only in speed but also in AI-driven behavior.
सदा भवानी दाहिन रे सदा भवानी दाहिन रे सिद्ध न करे गणेश
Tharu, the indigenous community of the Tarai plains of Nepal. The Tharu community settled in the dense forests of Tarai and transformed it into a granary. The Tharu folk literature and folk cultural heritages reflect the prehistoric human civilization to the modern-day Tharu civilization. The traditional houses, clay-made utensils, wooden items, tribal words and use of tantric phrases exemplify it. From Mechi in the east to Mahakali in the west and the inner Tarai region, this community has dense presence. Acknowledging the fact that all Tharus of Nepal are not of the same origin on basis of culture, Dang district is considered as the main place of origin of all Tharus except the Rana Tharus and Katharia Tharu of Kanchanpur district. Western Tarai, though geographically not so big, can be taken as the Tharu Cultural Museum, as more than half of Tharu population of Nepal inhabit in this limited area. Rana Tharu, Katharia Tharu and Dangora Tharu hold a distinct identity in the western Tarai plains. Above this, Dang Valley being the main origin of most of the Tharus, the Tharu culture here has preserved the cultural heritages of the overall Tharus of western Nepal. The malaria eradication program and land reform program run in Nepal attracted other cultural communities of neighboring hills to the western Tarai plains. The Tharus, living exclusively and independently with their cultural traditions, opted to migrate to Banke, Bardia, Kailali, Kanchanpur and Surkhet Valley with the increase of an ambience of coexistence with other communities. With the trend of migration rising, the Tharus were reduced to minority in their native land. Nonetheless, they were successful in retaining and conserving their cultural heritage that originated in the soils of Western Plains. The lifelong folk dance, traditions and festivities are the examples of their cultural preservation. The Tharus have successfully kept alive traditional practices, spirit, mutual unity and harmony, which are an eminent part of their lives today as well.
Tharus are the indigenous tribes of this place. We have our own typical cultural norms and values, including our own music and culture. Starting from the monsoon season, Tharus rejoice in their own cultural festivals that have their own traditional music. Agriculture is our main occupation, and we are known as hard-working people. Nepal is very rich in cultural diversity, but Tharu culture has its own uniqueness. I believe preserving Tharu culture could be a boon in developing tourism as well in this region. However, it is very important to preserve and promote Tharu culture, especially among the youths. Proper planning and programs to preserve and promote Tharu culture from the government is a must.
Tharu festivals, culture, traditions and practices are special and significant. As the Tharus were able to retain their traditions, their cultures have become lifelong, which indeed reflects their originality. In the cultural perspective, every month holds significance for the Tharu community. Magh 1st of the Nepali lunar calendar, culturally known as Maghi, is the special day for the Tharus. Maghi is not only a festival for them, it is the beginning of a new fiscal year. A special exhilaration and fervor infuses the homes of every Tharu during the Maghi festival. Mahatwa, or village leader, is elected on this very day in consensus of all sides based on work efficiency, aptitude and capacity. Resolving the problems of the village to the managerial aspects is the responsibility of the Mahatwa. Mahatwa actually is more an organization in a Tharu village than an individual. The village leadership is taken as a higher traditional practice in the Tharu autonomous ruling system.
We normally play the role of a facilitator in mediating whenever there are disputes among people of our community. The Matau, or the local chief, has to take the lead whenever there are accidents like death in our community. Sometimes there are disputes between people of different villages. The Matau needs to take the lead in settling them as well, almost like a judge. On cases of land proportion division to kamayas or the bonded leverers, people can give their opinion, but the final decision is taken by the matau. In marriages also, the witness has to be the matau. Later, if the couple has any problems, the matau needs to be the one to settle their dispute.
The village senior or agua, on the instruction of Mahatwa, asks all the villagers to be present at Mahatwa's residence on the eve of Maghi. Khyala is the village council of Tharus, where every decision is taken in consensus of all sides. Tharus share a close bonding with nature, and their folk life exemplifies this connection. During the Maghi, they reach the jungles to pick the leaves and collect timber before dawn. Some go for fishing, as fish is the speciality of Tharu dishes. The male members of the community come together for preparing pork meat. While the Tharu women get busy in cooking delicious dishes like tikri and making alcohol at home. This kind of cultural activities is not only a necessity, but also a higher degree of practice of unity and teamwork within a village. Magh 1st of Nepali calendar, around mid-January, or the day of Maghi festival. The rays of the sun are yet to fall on earth. The riverbanks are crowded by people taking a holy dip. Songs can be heard playing in the background.
Water-filled pots or kalash are placed by villagers on either sides of the road as a gesture of extending greetings, while these footsteps return towards villages from rivers to the tunes of the music. Sprinkling the holy water of kalash, a group of elderly reach the home of Mahatwa to extend greetings and for Maghi assembly. They take a seat after greeting him. Gardhuria, or the households, elect the new leader on this very day. The assembly concludes after reviewing the overall activities of the previous year and chalking out the new plans for the new year. This is followed by feast and dance. Women perform the traditional Tharu dance of Maghauta. Maghi is soon followed by another festival, Hori, that falls on the Nepali month of Fagun around February and March. This festival is celebrated by the Tharus ritualistically. Among the various rituals, the ritual of sparking fire after rubbing timber of Ganyari species reflects their primitiveness. The holy fire is using for lighting ablaze the pole. The fire used for lighting the pole is taken to home by every Gardhuria and kept safely. The same fire is used for cooking the food throughout the year. Fag, that is sung marking this occasion, has lusty lines. In the ancient times, it was called Madan Utsov, or festivity of lust or passion. Hence, the month of Fagun in the Nepali lunar calendar is a wedding month for the Tharus. Following the agreement by the family of the girl and the boy for their marriage, Tekoni, a ritual of give and take, is marked.
ऊपर बद्रीबा तर धरतीबा एक बिट लौटबान नहीं करबे ना नहीं कर
On the wedding day, Diuli Darna, a special ritual is marked at the bridegroom's home. The Mahatwa robes a scarf on his head, which is called Pagya. The groom takes out barchi from his native worship place, Duhar. Taking the barchi is a symbol of war culture for the bride. While heading to the bride's home, the groom is offered sweet delicacies by his neighbors. The groom then sits on a dola, a wooden carrier, and reaches the bride's home. The bride's mother welcomes the groom with kalash on her hands and circumambulates the groom thrice. The sister-in-laws wash the feet of the groom. The wedding guests from the groom's side enjoy the feast. Tears well in the eyes of bride as she is bidden farewell by her family members. The bride is then carried on the dola to the groom's house. Bhojinya sprinkles rice grains on the yard. A pot full of fire is placed in front of the bride and groom. First the groom, then the bride steps on the fire and reach the duhar. Folk belief has it that stepping on the fire by the newlyweds means accepting each other, keeping the god of fire as a witness. The sisters of the groom then take certain amount as a gift and clear the way for the newlyweds. Bhojinya then receives them and collides groom's head with the bride's. Then she asks the bride to oil massage the groom's feet. After the feast, the celebration continues amid singing and dancing, performing traditional chokra and jhumra dance.
The culturally rich Tharu community of Western Nepal is backward in social and economic fronts. The government must come up with concrete programs to promote Tharu culture right from the local level to the international level. This can be a medium for the social and economic upliftment of the Tharu people. We have launched a campaign to preserve the cultural heritages of Tharu community in Dang, Bake, Bardia, Kailali, Kanchanpur and Surkhet districts.
The Nepali month of Chaitra and Baisakh, or the spring season, is the season of going to the jungles for collecting timber and fodder. The men and women together go to the jungles. They sing Sajana Maina Tharu folk songs while picking leaves or collecting timber. The word Sajana comes from the Hindi language and indicates the folk song has a high amount of love and passion, while Maina is the folk song in which the lovers or a girl expresses her inner feelings, symbolizing the bird Maina as a medium. Among the folk cultural rituals of Tharus, the special ritual of Rath Lausarna and Dhurra Lausarna are considered important and are held by Dharhaya Guruwa for maternal and neonatal health in the Nepali month of Jesta and Kartik. This ritual is one of the Tharu folk treatment methods done through tantric medium. Saptamatrika is worshipped during this ritual. According to nature science, with the change in each season, the favorable and unfavorable effects of the seasonal change are seen in humans, animal, and the entire environment. Among the rituals carried out to protect oneself from those bad effects, Durya Guryai and Harya Guryai carried out annually are considered important worship rituals. After the Dhurya Guryai that is organized in the month of Jesta, the band, musical instruments and dance performances are resumed after concluding Harya Guryai in the month of Bhadra. The main priest, Deshbandhya Guruwa, and his assistant, Keshoka Guruwa, worship the main god and goddesses, Chavaharwa and Daharchandi, established in rural religious places, Bhuyarasthan, chanting mantras, wishing for good health and freeing environment of pollution. The Tharus share a close relation with the forest, and as tiger inhabits in the forest, it is worshipped as Bagreshi goddess in Tharu folk culture. The Deshbandhya Guruwa offer eggs as part of the ritual of Bagresi Devi. The Deshbandhya Guruwa reinforces his faith towards rural gods and goddesses by performing fire dance, and he performs this dance through the help of Keshoka Guruwa to awaken the gods and goddesses who are asleep from Durya Guryai. There is a folk belief that the classical tunes of traditional musical instrument madal used during the fire dance eventually chases the evil spirit away. Krishna Ashtami is another significant festival of the Tharus. On this very day, Lord Krishna is worshipped by putting on a huge tika. Thus, the birthday of Lord Krishna is called Astimki. Folk anecdote has it that the Tharu folk artists have this way depicted the story from Stone Age to the Dwapar Age through the paintings. Each painting has its own story. Folk belief has it that the first man of Tharu ethnicity, Gubarba, sitting on the boat, saved himself and his epics by riding on a boat during the end of each age, known as Yug. The images depicted in the painting that are of the evolution stages of fishes, crabs, earthworms, stories of the 5 Pandavas and Draupadi, among others, showcase the Tharu folk cultural history. All in all, this is a painting filled with Tharu folk philosophy. Dasai or the Dasya is the other important festival of the Tharus. The Tharus have a tradition of holding special worships for the deceased ancestors during this festival. The wife of the Mahatwa prepares a special kind of delicacy, dhikri, for offering it as a prasad or offering to the deceased ancestors. The Mahatwa at the worship place of his residence, Dewhar, offer these special delicacies to the deceased ancestors and the clan of gods and goddesses. After offering all these delicacies, the Dewhar room has to be left in silence. The sacrifice of a wax gourd is taken as an alternative to the existing practice of sacrificing since ancient age. Men, women and youths assemble at the residence of Mahatwa in Dasai to receive tika, blessings and exchange greetings. Tharus have a tradition of putting on a white tika, and it is taken as a practice that began when colors were not created and as a symbol of peace. There is a culture of performing Sakhya and Paya dance from Krishnastami to Dasai in the Tharu culture. In the Sakhya dance, the male members playing the madal play the role of Krishna, while the female dancers role play Radha. Therefore, this dance is performed in two forms, Giti along with a song and a Giti without a song. This dance is performed in 22 musical beats. However, these beats are now in the verge of extinction.
Demonstrative art is an integral part of folk Tharu culture. Sakhya and Paiya folk dances performed during Dasai festival are some examples. It is believed that these folk dances have up to 22 different beats. However, today we hardly find musicians and dancers who can play or perform all these 22 different beats. Only limited beats are performed these days. This demands further research and preservation efforts. Likewise, the Tharu folk literature is equally rich in romanticism. They are found in abundance in Tharu folklores and songs.
The main occupation of Tharu is agriculture. They enjoy in the fields and prefer to toil there. They seek the base of their livelihood through agriculture. They are pursuing their life ahead by being close to the nature. The Tharus believe in traditional values, hence believe the Barka dance should be performed if natural disasters occur. The Mahatawa for the same calls village assembly or Khyala. The Barka dance is organized as per the decision of the Khyala. The Barka, that is a folk musical Tharu drama with Tharu folk philosophies, starts with pious steps of various gods and goddesses and concludes with a sequence of Kurukshetra war from the Mahabharata epic and the ascent to heaven. At the end of the dance, the dancers in guise of 5 Pandavas and Draupadi hide their weapons under the Shami tree which is believed is a depiction of Pandavas going to the Virat kingdom during their incognito stay or the Agyatbas. As per the Tharu folk belief, keeping the akshata used in this dance with oneself will protect one from evil eyes and spirits and helps in curing various illnesses. There is a local belief that touching the bamboo pole that is a symbol of Shiva Lingam or the phallic symbol of Hindu god Shiva relieves oneself from various physical pains. The Tharu culture that is based on self-identity is at present on the verge of extinction. A generation gap is developing between the older and the younger Tharu generation.
Nepal government intensifies monsoon disaster preparedness with tech-driven action plan. Experts urge stronger community response. Nepal's economic growth forecast slips below 3%. World Bank and ADB warn external shocks could derail recovery. Tribhuvan University scandal over missing professors. Hundreds of faculty staying abroad after state-funded study leave. NEPSE revises circuit breaker rules. New trading limits take effect Monday. Market halt threshold rose to 8%. Iran closes Strait of Hormuz amid tensions over US blockade. Trump warns against blackmail as talks continue. And Nepal set to host UAE in T20 series ahead of World Cup League 2. Historic floodlit matches mark first day-night internationals in Kirtipur. Good evening, I'm Vijata Bhandari and you're watching NTV World News Hour, coming to you live from Kathmandu at 2200 hours Nepal time. Now the news in detail. The government of Nepal has stepped up nationwide disaster preparedness ahead of the monsoon, rolling out a comprehensive response plan focused on stronger coordination across all levels. Authorities say training has been completed in all 77 districts, alongside plans to expand early warning systems and pre-position rescue resources. Officials are also integrating technology, including AI-based tools and localized weather alerts, to improve response effectiveness. However, experts warn that success will depend on real-world implementation and community-level responsiveness, and not just planning. Nepal's economic growth is projected to remain below 3% as weak domestic demand and global uncertainties weigh on the recovery. The World Bank and Asian Development Bank have warned that Middle East tensions, low investment, and subdued consumption could further slow the progress. The situation presents an early challenge for the new government's economic agenda. We'll delve deeper on this in our Issue of the Day segment later in the bulletin. Tribhuvan University is facing a major financial scandal, with nearly 400 professors accused of misusing around 2 billion rupees in public funds. Investigations show many faculty members continued receiving salaries while living abroad after failing to return from their PhD studies. The case has raised serious concerns over governance as students faced declining academic standards. Authorities have pledged action amid the growing public demand for accountability. We'll see more on this in our Cover Story of the Day segment later in the bulletin. Nepal Stock Exchange has introduced new trading rules, raising the circuit breaker threshold to 8% from 6%. The revised system reduces circuit breaker stages and allows greater daily price fluctuations for individual stocks, increasing both opportunity and risk. Regulators say the changes align with global practices and aim to accommodate a growing investor base. Iran has again closed the Strait of Hormuz, linking the move to ongoing U.S. restrictions on its ports. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps said the closure followed incidents involving vessels in the region. Tehran warned the key global shipping route will remain shut until sanctions-related pressures are lifted. Officials say talks with the United States are ongoing, but far from a final agreement. Meanwhile, Donald Trump said Iran is attempting to use the Strait of Hormuz as leverage, but warned the United States will not accept blackmail. He added that talks with Tehran are ongoing despite rising tensions.
They have no Navy, they have no Air Force, they have no leaders, they have no nothing. Actually, their leaders are, it is regime change. You call that enforced regime change, but we're talking to them. They wanted to close up the strait again, you know, as they've been doing for years, and they can't blackmail us. In fact, a lot of the ships are coming up to Texas. I don't know if you know, in Louisiana, the ships are coming up. They got used to it. Maybe they'll keep doing it. It's worked out pretty good. But it's going actually along very well, and we'll see. But we'll have some information by the end of the day. We're talking to them, and, you know, we're taking a tough stand. They've killed a lot of people.
Nepal will host the United Arab Emirates in a two-match T20 series as preparation for the ICC Cricket World Cup League 2. Matches will be played under floodlights at the Tribhuvan University Cricket Ground, marking Nepal's first ever international night games. The squad, led by Dipendra Singh Aire, aims to build momentum ahead of key League 2 fixtures. Nepal's economic outlook is dimming, with growth projections slipping below 3% as weak demand and global shocks weigh on the recovery. A sharp downgrade from the earlier 6% target underscores rising vulnerability to Middle East tensions, threatening remittances, tourism and imports. We explore this and more in our issue of the day after this break. Welcome back. You're watching NTV World News Hour. Now on to our issue of the day. With growth projections slipping below 3% as external shocks and weak domestic demand weigh heavily, Nepal's economy has an uphill climb to overcome. The World Bank and Asian Development Bank warned that Middle East tensions, slowing investment and subdued consumption could derail the recovery. The downturn presents a critical early test for the new government's economic agenda. Sabika Shrestha brings more.
Nepal's economic momentum faces a political cooling period in 2026. Despite a new political chapter, growth projections are currently being recalibrated, with estimates suggesting a dip below the 3% mark as external pressures mount. Reports from the World Bank and the Asian Development Bank indicate a projected GDP slowdown to 2.3% to 2.7% this fiscal year. This stands in contrast to the 4.6% growth seen in fiscal year 2025, posing a significant question. Can the government's policy interventions counteract this downward trend? At the core of the slowdown are mounting external risks, particularly tensions in the Middle East, which threaten remittance inflows, a key driver of Nepal's economy. Dr. Prakash Kumar Shrestha, Vice Chair of the National Planning Commission, warned the path ahead will be difficult.
Already the petroleum price has skyrocketed, and because of that transportation price increase, and our inflation also already started increasing. And the recent global World Bank report also highlighted that there are 5 channels through which the impact of this Middle East will come to the Nepal. One is the remittances, another one is the chemical fertilizers, another one is the petroleum product, international trade. These are the things, these are the channel through which our Nepalese economy already feeling the impact of this war. And if it continues further, and obviously our aspiration for the growth will be impacted.
However, the challenge is not solely external. Structural hurdles persist.
A government has to work on the maintaining the good governance, which the people are complaining, especially the youth are complaining about that. And the government also has to fix the internally, like the public finance management. There are so many things to do, and actually the economic reforms, so that there will be the environment for investment, so that the private sector can invest. That will increase the employment. That's the young actually looking for.
The recent political transition has led to a wait-and-see approach among private investors. On the streets of the capital, the disconnect between macroeconomic data and consumer confidence is palpable.
कस्टमर आउँदैन, भाडाहरू त्यस्तै छ, गाडी भाडा त्यस्तै छ, सबै कुराहरू त्यस्तै छ। समस्या चाहिँ धेरै नै भयो हामीलाई। जब गर्ने मान्छे हो, अब गाडी भाडा त्यस्तै बढेको छ। पहिला 20 रुपैयाँमा आउँथ्यो भने अहिले 25 तिर्नु पर्छ।
This sentiment reflects a core concern flagged by the International Monetary Fund that weak domestic demand could stifle the broader recovery. Key sectors are under pressure. Tourism faces rising costs linked to global energy volatility, while trade imbalances continue to widen despite modest export growth. The data presents a complex paradox. Nepal Rashtra Bank reports a stable environment with inflation at 3.25% and robust foreign exchange reserves of $22.76 billion American dollar. Yet the widening trade deficit and energy volatility affecting tourism keep the economy in a vulnerable state.
Nepal's economy is kind of mixed stage, mixed situations. There are some good signs. Especially the external sector, we have enough foreign currency reserves and we have enough liquidity in the banking system. But on the other hand, our private sector investment has not picking up.
As the government moves to convert these stable reserves into active economic momentum, the focus remains on policy clarity. Will faster capital spending be enough to regain the growth trajectory, or will the uphill battle against global headwinds prove too steep? Sabika Shrestha with camera person Rasila Shrestha reporting for NTV World.
Nepal's economic growth projection has been lowered by almost half than its prior projection. This signals a sharp departure from the initial 6% target amid mounting global pressures. This downward revision highlights the growing vulnerability of the national economy to the Middle East conflict, as volatility abroad begins to disrupt the vital flow of remittance, tourism, and affordable imports. Subeksha Rajak brings more.
Nepal's Ministry of Finance has slashed the fiscal growth target from 6% to 3.5%, almost by half. While domestic factors persist, this downward revision is driven largely by escalating conflict in the Middle East, which now threatens the critical pillars of remittance, tourism, and market stability. For the past 5 years, remittances from migrant workers have served as Nepal's ultimate safety net, consistently accounting for nearly 24% of the national GDP. In 2021, inflows stood at roughly 961 billion rupees, surging to a historic record of 1.2 trillion by 2024. However, with the Middle East hosting over 70% of Nepali migrant workforce, current geopolitical strains are bound to trigger a cooling trend. Although figures reached 1.2 trillion last year, the Nepal Rashtra Bank's February 2026 report indicates a significant growth deceleration. A widening conflict threatens a major contractions in the very funds that sustain Nepali household consumption and national liquidity. Following the pandemic, Nepal's tourism sector witnessed a classic V-shaped recovery. From a historic low of 230,000 arrivals in 2021, the numbers climbed back to nearly 1 million in the 2024-25 period. The target for the current year was a bold 1.5 million arrivals. Data from the Department of Tourism now suggests that the Middle East conflict has spiked global jet fuel prices and inflated travel insurance premiums. Furthermore, European and American travelers who frequently utilize Middle Eastern transit hubs like Doha or Dubai are reconsidering long-haul travel. The 3.5% growth revision directly reflects this fear factor as arrivals for the first quarter of 2026 have already dipped 12% compared to the same period last year. As an import-dependent nation, Nepal remains highly vulnerable to global supply chain disruptions. While inflation remained relatively stable between 5% and 6% over the last 5 years, the World Bank's April 2026 update issues a stern warning. If Middle East tensions obstruct all supply routes, Nepal's transport cost will skyrocket. Currently, inflation is hovering near 7.5%, driven primarily by high fuel costs. This supply-side shock means the increased cost of transporting essentials from the border to Kathmandu is passed directly to the consumer. This fragility ensures that if prices continue to climb, domestic spending will halt, causing economic growth to slow or stall entirely. With the government pivoting toward a cautiously accommodative policy, the national focus has now shifted from the pursuit of speed to the necessity of stability.
In this context, we asked the traders, how has inflation affected their business? Let's have a look at what they say in today's Public Pulse.
दिन प्रतिदिन महँगी बढ्दैछ अनि यो महँगीले गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ हाम्रो व्यापार बिजनेसमा धेरै घाटा छ कम्पिटिसन बढिसक्यो हैन व्यापार बिजनेसमा चाहिँ एकले अर्कालाई चाहिँ तल पार्ने आइसक्यो भनेपछि अब यो कपडाको लाइन अब अरु आइटम भनम त्यो भन्दा खाद्य अवस्थाले नै गर्दाखेरि चाहिँ धेरै हामीलाई चाहिँ गाह्रो परिसकेको छ कि
समग्रमा धेरै असर परिरहेछ अब महँगीले गर्दा सबै कुरा महँगो भएको हुनाले अब एक त काम पनि त्यति छैन हैन त्यसपछि फेरि अब महँगी भएर एक्स्ट्रा पैसा तिर्नु पर्ने भएको हुनाले परिवारदेखि लिएर सम्पूर्णमै धेरै गाह्रो भइरहेछ
काम चाहिँ खाली हुँदैन पहिला भन्दा कम छ अहिले
बढेछ सबै चीज बढेछ बिजनेसमा फरक परेछ अलिकति पहिला अलि आउँथे अहिले कमै आउँछन् मान्छेहरू खाने मान्छे
एकदमै धेरै इफेक्ट गरेको छ अहिले चाहिँ खासै कस्टमरहरूले भिजिट गर्न खोज्नुहुन्न त्यतिहरु सामानहरु पनि हाम्रो अनलाइन हो अर्डर पनि गर्नुहुन्न अहिले महँगी बढे सँगसँगै हामीलाई सामान हाल्न पनि एकदमै धेरै गाह्रो भइराछ
पेट्रोलको पनि प्राइस बढेको छ अब सबै कुराको प्राइस बढेको छ अप्ठ्यारो परिरहेछ अब कसैले जानु पर्छ इन ड्राइभ गर्दा त्यहाँ पनि महँगो गरेछ पठाउमा पनि महँगो गरेछ
बिजनेस अलि कम भएको छ मान्छेहरु धेरै आउनु हुँदैन महँगी बढेकोले त्यस्तो भइन्छ
अहिले चाहिँ एकदमै बिजनेसहरु डाउन भइरहेको छ अनि अब मान्छेहरु पनि पहिलाको जस्तो चलपल नै छैन मान्छेसँग पैसा नै छैन जस्तो पनि भइरहेछ अनि अब मार्केट गर्न पनि एकदमै गाह्रो नै भइरहेछ पहिलाको जस्तो चाहिँ छँदै छैन एकदमै डाउन गइरहेछ
प्राइसहरु चाहिँ बढेको कारण अब कस्टमरले पनि मानिरहेको छैन नि त अब उनीहरुले नर्मली डेली कन्ज्युम गर्ने प्राइस एउटा हुन्छ अब थोरै बढ्यो भने चाहिँ अब त्यो एक्सेप्टेबल हुन्छ तर अब अहिले एकदम र्यापिडली नै बढ्न थाल्यो नि त त्यो भएको भएर चाहिँ अहिले हल्का गाह्रै पर्छ
यहाँ हामीलाई अहिले फेरि आउन जान नि हामी अब स्कुटीमा आउने जाने हुन्छ हैन अनि अब पेट्रोलको भाउ बढी सेसे पनि हिजो अलिकति कम 100 रुपैयाँ खर्च भयो भने आज आउन जान 200 खर्च हुन्छ
This wraps up our Issue of the Day segment. On to the next segment now. Tribhuvan University is at the center of a major financial scandal, with nearly 400 professors accused of misusing around 2 billion rupees in public funds. Investigations reveal many continued drawing salaries while staying abroad after failing to return from their PhD studies. We explored this controversy and the sparked concerns regarding governance and academic decline in our cover story of the day after this break. Welcome back. You're watching NTV World News Hour. And now it's time for our cover story of the day. Nepal's premier academic institution, Tribhuvan University, is facing a moral and financial bankruptcy of its own making. Nearly 400 disappearing professors have siphoned off an estimated 2 billion rupees from the state treasury. They went abroad to study on the taxpayers' dime, but they never came back. A report.
It is the oldest temple of learning in the country, a place where dreams of nation building are born. But behind the red brick walls of Tribhuvan University, a massive breach of trust has been unfolding for decades. The deal was simple. The state pays for your PhD abroad, and you bring that knowledge back to Nepal. But for 398 permanent professors, the university became nothing more than a personal ATM. These teachers took their study leave, collected their full salaries, and moved to the US, Australia, Europe, and elsewhere. They stayed for years, enjoying comforts while still on the Nepali government's payroll. The scandal reaches the highest levels of power. The investigation has revealed that the list of absentees includes current members of parliament, Under the heat of the probe, some lawmakers have started quietly returning the money. But for the students left behind, money isn't the only thing lost. To keep the university running, Tribhuvan University was forced to hire temporary part-time staff. It's a double hit to the budget, paying the salary of a professor who is in the US and paying a second person to actually do the job in Kathmandu. The result, a collapse in academic quality. The investigation committee has until mid-July to submit its final report. While the government signals a ruthless crackdown, the public demand is growing. Don't just take the money back, take legal action.
That was our cover story. Now on to other updates. Minister for Communications and Information Technology, Dr. Bikram Timil Sinha, has called on media organizations and social media users in Nepal to avoid spreading misleading or irresponsible content, saying such practices undermine the spirit of freedom of expression. Speaking at a press conference in Battar of Bidur Municipality, Nuwakot, the minister stressed that the media, as a key pillar of democracy, must exercise self-regulation and strictly follow existing laws and professional codes of conduct. Minister Timil Sinha noted that the challenge of misinformation cannot be solved through legal measures alone and emphasized that responsible journalism and internal accountability are essential to maintaining the public trust. He further said that a strong and responsible media sector is vital for good governance and pledged government efforts to prevent misuse of taxpayer-funded resources while ensuring transparency in official communication. Rashtriya Swatantra Party (RSP) has announced that it will begin district conventions across Nepal from April 28 as part of its organizational expansion and strengthening drive. The decision was taken during a secretariat meeting held at the party's central office in Banasthali, Kathmandu, where leaders also agreed to form a general convention procedure draft committee to prepare for the upcoming National General Convention. Party General Secretary Kabindra Burlakoti said the district-level conventions will be conducted in phases across the country with a focus on boosting grassroots engagement and party structure. Meanwhile, the RSP's Central Committee meeting is scheduled for tomorrow, April 20, where leaders are expected to formally endorse the proposals and agenda prepared by the Secretariat. The party, which has been actively working to expand its political presence in recent times, says these steps are part of its broader effort to strengthen internal organization and nationwide outreach. Leaders aligned with Nepali Congress outgoing President Sher Bahadur Deuba have called for stronger internal unity within Nepal's largest democratic party following a meeting held in Kathmandu. During the discussion, leaders from the Deuba faction emphasized that with the court having already settled internal disputes, the party should now shift its focus toward organizational cohesion and collective strength. Party leaders said the current political environment demands reconciliation and cooperation among all factions to reinforce stability within the Nepali Congress. Congress leader Kundan Raj Kafle stated that the party leadership at Sanepa should take the initiative to bring all sides together and lead efforts toward unification. The meeting concluded with a shared view that internal consolidation is essential for the party's effectiveness in Nepal's evolving political landscape. Nepal Stock Exchange Limited has revised the existing circuit breaker mechanism in share trading. The changes introduced through the Fourth Amendment to the Securities Trading Operational Regulations 2019 will come into effect from tomorrow, setting new upper and lower limits for the market movements. Aprila Khesing Lama brings more.
Nepal has introduced new regulations in its stock market with changes set to take effect from Monday, April 20th. Nepal's stock market is a small but rapidly growing frontier market in South Asia. Under the revised rules issued by the Nepal Securities Board, trading on the Nepal Stock Exchange NEPSE index will now only be halted if the market rises or falls by 8%. Previously, this threshold was set at 6%. The updated system also reduces the number of circuit breakers from 3 stages to 2. If the NEPSE index moves up or down by 5% within the first 2 hours of trading, transactions will be suspended for 15 minutes. If the market continues to fluctuate and reaches an 8% change, trading will be halted for the entire day. Earlier, the market would pause for 20 minutes if it moved by 4% within the first hour, and for 40 minutes if it shifted by 5% within 2 hours. A 6% change at any time would result in a full-day closure. Also, individual stock prices will now be allowed to fluctuate by up to 15% in a single trading day, compared to the previous limit of 10%. While this creates opportunities for higher returns, it also increases the risk of significant losses. The new provisions also allow investors to place buy or sell orders even after the market closes at 3 p.m. local time. These orders will be prioritized by brokers when trading resumes the next day. Furthermore, during the pre-open session between 10:30 a.m. and 10:55 a.m., investors can now trade shares within a 5% price range, up from the earlier 2% limit. The regulatory body states that these changes have been introduced in line with international practices and to accommodate the growing number of investors in Nepal's capital market.
With the onset of the spring climbing season in Nepal, expeditions have officially begun on Mount Dhaulagiri, the world's 7th highest peak at 8,167 meters, located in western Nepal's Dhaulagiri Rural Municipality 4. On Saturday, 9 climbers, 5 Nepalis and 4 foreign nationals successfully completed the first summit of the season under an expedition organized by Imagine Nepal Company. The summit team included climbers from China, Switzerland and Nepal, among them experienced Sherpa guides, and they safely returned to Base Camp 3 after reaching the peak around 11 a.m. According to Nepal's Department of Tourism, 28 climbers in total, including 12 women, have obtained permits for this spring season, contributing over 12.56 million Nepali rupees in royalty revenue to the government. Dhaulagiri was first successfully climbed on May 13, 1960 by Austrian mountaineer Kurt Diemberger, marking it as one of the historic peaks in global mountaineering. A centuries-old Hanuman dance has been revived in western Nepal's Baglung district, where young performers staged the ritual performance after a 9-year hiatus. The 300-year-old tradition, rooted in Newar culture and inspired by the Ramayana, is now drawing renewed attention with local efforts underway to preserve it and seek UNESCO recognition. Rojina Rai brings a report.
13 pairs of Hanumans dressed in red costumes with skirts made of cloth tied around their waist danced to the beats of traditional instruments at the Kalika Bhagavati temple in western Nepal's Baglung district. These youths embodying the spirit of Brahmacharya, self-restraint and purity, perform as a Hanuman in a centuries-old Hanuman dance. The age-old tradition was revived after a 9-year gap. While dancing, they strictly follow rhythmic patterns. It is a traditional Newar dance on the Ramayana, embodying the courage, discipline and devotion of Lord Hanuman. Locals shared joy as the much-anticipated 300-year-old Hanuman dance was finally showcased in the district once again. Closely tied to Baglung's cultural heritage, the performance is conducted after proper ritual worship within the temple premises. Traditionally, the dance was performed every 3 years, but it was halted for 9 years due to various challenges, including financial constraints and a lack of support from the local government.
हनुमान नाच बागलुङको अत्यन्त पुरानो संस्कारको रूपमा संस्कृतिको रूपमा चाहिँ रहेको छ र विशेष गरेर यो नेवारी कल्चरले यसलाई संरक्षण गरेर राखेको छ र यो बागलुङीहरूको एउटा गर्वको विषय पनि हो। यसलाई संरक्षण प्रवर्धन गर्नको लागि विश्व सम्पदा सूचीमा यसलाई चाहिँ सूचीकृत गर्नुपर्छ भनेर हामी स्थानीय सरकार पनि यसमा लागि परिरहेका छौँ।
पूजाको हकमा जुन छ पूजा भन्ने कुरा चाहिँ उहाँको आफ्नै चाहिँ मेन पुजारी हुनुहुँदैछ र उहाँले नै पूजा दिनुहुनेछ। तर परिसर हामीलाई युज गर्छौँ परिसरमा हामीले चाहिँ हरेक विषयलाई चाहिँ जोड्न सकिन्छ।
This sacred Hanuman dance, preserved by the Newar community of Western Nepal as one of its oldest cultural traditions, is also being proposed for inclusion in the UNESCO World Heritage List. The records of the history show the dance first introduced in 1740 by Newar migrants from the Kathmandu Valley and has since become a cornerstone of local cultural identity. In recent years, there has been growing concern that tradition may lose their importance due to decline in intergenerational transmission. Rosina Rai with Kiran Acharya reporting for NTV World.
Lined up are the international updates, but before that, a quick recap of the headlines. Nepal government intensifies monsoon disaster preparedness with tech-driven action plan. Experts urge stronger community response. Nepal's economic growth forecast slips below 3%. World Bank and ADB warn external shocks could derail the recovery. Tribhuvan University scandal over missing professors. Hundreds of faculty staying abroad after state-funded study leave. NEPSE revises circuit breaker rules. New trading limits take effect Monday. Market halt threshold raised to 8%. Iran closes Strait of Hormuz amid tensions over US blockade. Trump warns against blackmail as talks continue. And Nepal set to host UAE in T20 series ahead of World Cup League 2. Historic floodlit matches mark first day-night internationals in Kirtipur. As the new round of US-Iran talks hangs in the balance, Pakistan has tightened traffic controls and sharply limited media access, turning Islamabad into heavily secured safe island for potential negotiations. Since Saturday, Pakistan has tightened control over long-distance passenger transport, banned heavy trucks from entering the main urban areas of the capital city of Islamabad and other major cities, as well as further raised its security alert level. The measures are designed to systematically reduce traffic pressure around the core area, creating a relatively enclosed and controllable environment for what may become a closed-door negotiation. Media access has been sharply tightened since the first round earlier in the month, with some journalists calling the current accreditation process hellishly difficult. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance led U.S. team and Iranian delegation led by Parliamentary Speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf had intensive talks over 20 hours and reached no agreement. Hezbollah deputy leader Naim Qasim has said that any truce with Israel cannot be one-sided and that the group will respond to continued Israeli attacks on Lebanon. Qasim, in a written message broadcast on the group's Al-Manar TV, warned that Hezbollah fighters remain ready for retaliation, framing the situation as part of ongoing cross-border hostilities. He said that attacks on Lebanese territory would not go unanswered, signaling continued escalation risk despite international calls for de-escalation. The remarks come amid persistent tensions along the Lebanon-Israel frontier, where sporadic exchanges of fire have raised fears of broader conflict. North Korea has launched multiple ballistic missiles towards the sea off its eastern coast, according to South Korea and Japan. The incident on Sunday marked North Korea's 7th ballistic missile launch this year and its 4th in April. The missiles were fired near the city of Simpo on North Korea's east coast at about 6:10 a.m. on Sunday local time, according to South Korea's military. South Korea's presidential office said it has held an emergency security meeting, according to the media reports. The launches come as China and the U.S. prepare for a summit in mid-May, in which Chinese President Xi Jinping and his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump are expected to discuss North Korea. Bulgarians began voting on Sunday in their 8th national election in 5 years, amid continued political instability and public frustration over corruption and governance. The vote is widely expected to favor a political grouping linked to former President Rumen Radev, which has campaigned on an anti-corruption platform. The election comes after years of fragmented parliaments and short-lived governments, with voters seeking stability and stronger institutional reform in the European Union member state. Turnout will be closely watched as a measure of public confidence in the country's repeatedly contested political system. Thousands of visitors gathered on Jindo Island in southern South Korea for the annual Jindo Miracle Sea Road Festival, where a rare extreme low tide temporarily reveals a seabed road between islands. The festival highlights the region's unique tidal phenomenon when receding waters briefly connect parts of the coastline, allowing visitors to walk across areas normally submerged by the sea. Participants waded across exposed mudflats to dig for clams and seaweed as part of the cultural and tourism event, which draws large domestic and international crowds each year. Local officials said the event is also aimed at boosting regional tourism while ensuring safety measures are in place during the short tidal window. Business news when we return after this short breather.
A strong start to 2026 in the Western Hemisphere is being undermined by risks from the Middle East War 2026, the IMF said Sunday. At the IMF Spring Meetings 2026, IMF official Nigel Chalk said growth had been near potential and inflation largely contained, but higher energy and food prices are now expected to push inflation up across the region. Tourism-dependent Caribbean economies and energy-importing Central American countries are seen as most vulnerable due to high debt and limited fiscal space. While oil exporters may benefit from higher prices, poorer households across the region will face rising living costs. The IMF urged governments to avoid broad subsidies and instead target support to vulnerable groups, warning that policy discipline will be key as the economic outlook weakens. The International Air Transport Association IATA has warned that a potential shortage of jet fuel could soon disrupt flight operations, particularly in Europe. Speaking on the issue, IATA Director General Willie Walsh described the International Energy Agency's IEA assessment as sobering, noting that supply constraints may begin to impact airlines in the coming weeks. According to IATA estimates, flight cancellations linked to jet fuel shortages could start start to emerge across Europe by the end of May. Walsh added that similar disruptions are already being observed in parts of Asia, where limited fuel availability has begun to affect operations. Authorities, he said, should ensure clear communication and coordination in case fuel rationing becomes unavoidable. This includes preparing measures such as slot relief, reduced capacity, and minimize passenger disruption. The warning highlights growing concerns over global energy supply chains and their direct impact on aviation as airlines and regulators brace for potential operational challenges in the months ahead. Government measures to halt the collapse of the Yemeni rial have stabilized the currency but triggered a severe liquidity crisis, disrupting daily life and business activity. Actions by the Central Bank of Yemen, including shutting unlicensed exchange firms, tightening control over remittances, and regulating access to foreign currency, helped strengthen the rial from around 2,900 to about 1,500 per US dollar in recent months. However, residents in cities including Aden, Taiz, and Mukalla report acute shortages of local cash, with banks and exchange outlets limiting conversions from foreign currency. The shortage has left many unable to access funds, slowed business operations, and fueled a growing black market offering less favorable exchange rates, underscoring the fragile balance between currency control and liquidity in the war-hit economy. The 6th China International Consumer Products Expo wrapped up on Saturday in Haikou, South China's tropical island province of Hainan, with ever stronger participation, more product launches, and fresh investment commitments, highlighting growing global interest in the Chinese market. This year's expo, which ran from April 13 to 18, attracted 3,413 premier consumer brands from 67 countries and regions, with 386 new products unveiled during the event. After 6 years of development, the expo has become the largest premium consumer goods exhibition in the Asia-Pacific region and an important platform for setting consumption trends and driving consumer upgrades. A total of 10 supply and demand matchmaking events were held during the expo, resulting in 130 preliminary agreements reached. More than 1,200 exhibitors and buyers took part. A purchaser service center was launched for the first time to help accelerate the commercialization of exhibited products and encourage exhibitors to expand investment in Hainan.
Now on to sports update. Humanoid robots raced alongside human runners in a half marathon in Beijing, highlighting accelerating advances in robotics and artificial intelligence as the industry moves closer to real-world deployment. The second humanoid robot half marathon held in Beijing E-Town drew more than 100 robot teams, including 5 from overseas. Official data showed 26 brands and over 300 humanoid robots participated, marking a significant expansion from the inaugural event last year. A remotely controlled lightning robot from one honor team was first to cross the finish line, completing the race in 48 minutes and 19 seconds. However, under the competition's weighted scoring system, the championship title went to an autonomous navigation lightning robot from another honor team, which recorded a net time of 50 minutes and 26 seconds. The results represent a sharp improvement in performance. At the 2025 World Humanoid Robot Games, the winning robot Tiangong Ultra finished the same distance in 2 hours, 40 minutes and 42 seconds. Now the weather updates, first from across Nepal and then the world. Before wrapping up, here's a look into the top stories this hour. Nepal government intensifies monsoon disaster preparedness with a tech-driven action plan. Experts urge stronger community response. Nepal's economic growth forecast slips below 3%. World Bank and ADB warn external shocks could derail the recovery. Tribhuvan University scandal over missing professors. Hundreds of faculty staying abroad after state-funded study leave. NEPSE revises circuit breaker rules. New trading limits take effect Monday. Market halt threshold raised to 8%. Iran closes Strait of Hormuz amid tensions over US blockade. Trump warns against blackmail as talks continue. And Nepal set to host UAE in T20 series ahead of World Cup League 2. Historic floodlit matches mark first day-night internationals in Kirtipur. That's it for this edition of NTV World News Hour. Do join us through our social media and get the latest updates from our official website at nepaltelevision.com. I'm Bishata Pandari. Thank you for watching. Good night.